to me. As you probably know, you may hopefully got my notice earlier tonight. I was supposed to be on with Russ Center. He got sick. Uh, he's had to cancel his show and cancel the appearance on mine. So but he gave me. I'm not mad at him. He rescheduled for September, I believe the 24th. So we'll be trying the double show again in September. So I just got to find me a guest for next week. Tonight, however, since Russ gave me plenty of notice to find somebody, Sandy Wells had her issues with her show tonight. So here we are doing mine. And be bringing her out in just a minute. So that's, if anybody came in here to see Russ, I'm sorry. Russ got sick, and now we're going to go with a much more laid-back show. Russ and I were playing a good comedy, so stay with us in September, I believe 24th, or Thursday, the third one. And Russ and I will entertain for probably 4 hours or longer that night. We got some pre-planning to it, and we can have a lot of fun. That will be a fun night, be some paranormal with a lot of jokes. But tonight, we're going to get serious. We're going to talk to Sandy Wells, and let's just get to it. All righty. Let's take our way, Bones.
Warning, the following video contains strong language which may be offensive to some viewers and or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Southern Fried Paranormal with Len Dorman featuring Bones. Catch us on Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, Spreaker, Facebook, Stream, and everywhere else you catch your podcasts. And of course, WLFE-DB.com. Now, from the backwoods of southeast Arkansas, right beside the Bayou Bartholomew, the longest bayou on the planet, broadcasting from downtown metropolitan Cane Creek Township, here is your host, Len Dorman.
Where am I? Here we are. I'm here. I'm live, I guess. Heart's beating. I'm alive. And to the relief of my guest tonight, I did go to the doctor today, got checked up. They didn't find anything wrong. Of course, they didn't do a head x-ray. They never found anything there. But at least I've got a little bit of scratchy throat. I was checked for COVID. I do not have COVID. So at least I'm not having to ask my guest tonight to mask up and use rubber gloves. You got to practice that safe computing. But I'm not in quarantine. Be able to do what I want to do, and I'm clear of COVID. Anyway, let's see what else I can find in my blood test. Anyway, let's bring our guest out. She was the last minute. She was very gracious to appear. I'm happy to have her on the show. I should have already scheduled her for a show, maybe a double show. Maybe we can do that next time. Since her show is also on Thursday nights, we're going to bring in Sandy Wells. Whoop. Let's do that.
You forgot to unmute me. It's okay.
Yes, I did. That's my bad. Sorry about that.
It's okay. I just said hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here. Glad I can help you out.
Hey, I appreciate you coming in at last minute.
No problem. I wasn't doing anything except sweating it up. It's okay.
It's hot all over. It's steamy down here. We haven't had rain in a couple of weeks. I've got grass just dying out here. A shower developed, started with light rain, stopped. Started with a little heavier rain. I thought, okay, good. Did we get in your break? It rained harder for about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes most. Went back to light rain for another minute or two and quit. And now we got clear skies, which means one thing, it's getting a little cooler, but two, all we had was some hot sunshine break down for the last 2 hours of the day on top of some wet grass, which just immediately evaporated the rain. Didn't help anything.
Right.
He said just make it very humid, and it was not fun outside at over 90 degrees and probably over 90% humidity. That's not a good day out here.
I hate that humidity. It's horrible. That's why we came back to Washington. Yeah. Can't handle that.
That's why you gave up on Florida.
Humidity. Yeah, it just wasn't the same place as we remember when we were younger, when we were living down there. When we were younger.
Florida, I've lived down in Florida a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my father's family is from. And that's how I knew where pretty much your place was down there.
Right.
Because I've been all over the state. I've probably been in a majority, at least driven through almost every county in the state of Florida over the years.
Yeah. Mostly we stayed in Polk County. Yeah. So.
But so I know how humid it was. I also know about your comment that Florida's not like it used to be.
No,
it's a mess down there. You got too many people, and I wouldn't live there now because with so many people, and right now no state income tax. You say that's a good thing, but the problem is they're going to run out of water. And the state's going to have to probably borrow some money to either get some desaltation plants or something.
Yes.
And then they're going to have to really slap on some state income tax just to make up the difference.
Right. Right.
Because if they're going to keep on attracting tourists, they got to have running water in their hotels.
Absolutely, they do. There's a lot of tourist places down there. So.
Yes, tremendous amount. And that's what's wrong with Florida. I remember with Florida, when I was a kid, I could just go down there and sleep on the beach in Panama City. And nobody bother you. Because much after dark, you'd have a few people out at 9 o'clock at night. But after about 10, 11 o'clock, everybody was in the bars. There was nobody out there swimming to the beach. You could leave a bar at 1 o'clock in the morning, go out, find some soft sand, fall asleep on the beach. And the first thing that woke you up was the sun in your face.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to go to Daytona Beach a lot, and you could drive. Back in those days, you could drive on the beach, and yeah, it was cool. You go out there at 10 o'clock at night, and it's still like 80. The water's like 80 degrees. It's really nice.
Mm-hmm. I remember those. Well, that brings back all kinds of memories.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know if you realize that I am 66 years old.
I'm 64.
So I remember how Florida used to be. I had a relative of my mother's had a beach house right on Jacksonville Beach, and I'd go down there sometimes during the summer.
Right.
So I would spend a couple of weeks over at her house as a kid, running up down Jacksonville Beach, and there was nobody really close to her. Mm-hmm. So maybe a couple of vacationers and maybe some kid that lived down the road, and that was it.
Right.
And now you can't even spread a towel on that beach without it being on somebody else's towel.
No, it's horrible. We went down there to go to the beach, and it was just packed, and you couldn't take your dog on the beach. You couldn't drive on the beach anymore. It was, I didn't like it. It was too touristy now.
Yep, it's not Florida from my memories.
No,
our Florida's dead.
Yeah, well, rest is Florida. Yeah,
rest is Florida.
I was born in Illinois, so and my family moved to Washington when I was in second grade, and pretty much lived here most of my life. Well, been a lot of places, but yeah.
All right. Can you talk a little bit about how you got in the paranormal? What motivated you to get in this?
That's kind of a long story, but I'll try to make it as quick as possible.
I got all night.
Yeah. When I was 5 years old, I had a near-death experience and came back. And after that, I somehow ended up with psychic abilities and started seeing spirits and all kinds of things, and then that kind of went on until I was about, I don't know, 10, well, about 12, I guess. And then I had all my grandparents passed away, and so it kind of put me into this deep depression and stuff, and I just didn't even pay attention to spirits and stuff after that. And then when I met Russ when I was 21, he was 21 as well. And we got together, we started doing paranormal investigations, and have been doing them since. So that was 1980, I believe. Yeah. So about 42 years now.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife and I have only been married about 20 and a half years. This November will be 21 years.
Yep. Yeah. You don't hear about that much anymore. People just don't stay married anymore. So I don't know why. It's just they're too late. I don't know. Maybe they're too lazy to work it out. If they have arguments or something. I don't know.
Yeah, true. They get in an argument and go get a divorce and marry some person they were looking at anyway.
Right. And it's too simple for them to get divorced. I mean, I can see if it's an abusive relationship or something. I mean, I was married before Russ. I was real young. I was 17 and was married before. And then when we met, we just knew exactly what we didn't want in a relationship. So that's why, I mean, we're like best friends, and we do everything together. So it's, even now, I mean, we have our arguments, but that's just, it's typical when you're married. You just get in little tiffs, and then it's over with, and you go on with your day. That's about it, so. But yeah, we've been doing investigations for a long time.
My wife doesn't help me much on investigations. She says she'll watch my equipment, and because if you got 2 or 3 pieces of equipment out, you're not watching what's left in the car,
right?
And she'll sit out there and let the car run with the air conditioner running or something, and at least she's keeping an eye on stuff. She likes staying in the hotels. It is nice to stay in a hotel once in a while, and we don't go out to eat.
We don't much either. Yeah.
To be honest, Star City, I didn't tell you this earlier, but Star City is about 2,400 people.
My kind of town.
It's got the restaurant, the only real restaurant here in town, just closed.
Mm-hmm.
We have a Sonic, a McDonald's. We have a privately owned business. It's a hamburger place.
Yeah.
We have one cafe that's only open for lunch. But I think 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they're closed.
Right.
And that's we got a Chinese place that's not very well, except on Friday and Saturday night. That's that's the nicest place to go eat supper now locally. And you got the Mexican restaurant.
Wow. Yeah, that's like where we live. It's you have 2 restaurants, you got an ice cream parlor, you got a movie theater, you got a hotel.
Volcano.
A what?
We got an active volcano.
Oh, we got an active volcano over here.
Okay.
It's not really active; it's dormant, but it's a big volcano. Let's put it that way. We can see it from our house, but anyway, yeah.
Let me know if it blows up.
Oh, believe me, if it's going to blow up, we won't be here. No. Sandy and Russ will be gone real quick.
Time to go see Florida.
Yeah. Actually, if I went anywhere, it'd probably be to Oregon, because it's a lot like Washington, except Washington, at least Western Washington, doesn't have any poisonous snakes or anything. I mean, no rattlesnakes, nothing. So.
Wow. That's one thing we have here. We have water moccasins.
Mm-hmm.
We have a few coral snakes, not many, but a few.
Right.
And of course, the cottonmouth is a water moccasin. We have, of course, rattlesnakes, about 2 or 3 different varieties. But the big thing around here is copperheads. They're not very big,
Right.
And their bite is not as dangerous as a rattlesnake, but it'll still put you in the hospital for some treatment. So rattlesnake, time you call the ambulance and they get you to a hospital, is pretty well in your system, and you're probably going to have to go from a series of at least 5 to maybe 15 or 20 anti-venom treatments.
Right.
And you could be in the hospital either from, depending on how fast they get you,
and where they get you,
or how quick the ambulance people pick you up and get you to the hospital. You could be in the hospital. You're going to be in the hospital at least minimum 2 or 3 days, and that's with just a little bitty bite, and the ambulance gets there within a few minutes of your call. If any of that's delayed, you're looking at 2 to 3 weeks or more in the hospital, and a chance of not surviving.
Right. Well, in Eastern Washington, you got like the Cascade Mountains in between Western Washington and Eastern Washington. And in the Eastern Washington, it's like more deserty and stuff. So you got a lot of rattlesnakes over there. I think it's rattlesnakes pretty much is it. But I don't know because I've never lived over there. But over here, you can walk in the woods and not have to worry about timber snakes or anything. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, one of the snakes I didn't mention is a king snake. That's a good snake. It will eat rattlesnakes. It'll kill and eat rattlesnakes. It loves copperheads because they're smaller.
Yes.
And they're a constrictor, like a boa constrictor. They can bite. It'd be like a boa constrictor bite, depending on how big the snake is. It's like from being bitten by a kitten to being bitten by a little bit bigger cat.
Right.
Boa's like getting bit by a dog.
Right.
It'll tear you up if it wants to get into you. King snake, we had one for a while living under our house, which kept the mice at bay, kept the rattlesnakes at bay.
They're good for that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have garter snakes, but that's about it. I mean, garter snakes, whatever they call them, and they're pretty long, but they just run away from you. And they're not poisonous, and they don't bite. So we like having them here because they keep the mice down, And
I saw a few years back, I saw a green snake under the steps of our porch that was close to 5 feet long. It's the biggest green snake I'd ever seen.
Wow.
I've only done things I've seen like that, or 2.5 feet was the biggest thing I'd seen. This was over 3 feet, maybe approaching 4.
Wow.
The biggest darn green snake I've ever seen.
So that's about how long we've been doing the paranormal. It's been an adventure. I mean, we've done thousands of investigations over the years, and we've done anything from ghost towns to bars to old prisons, old hospitals, mental asylums, you name it. Love cemeteries. I don't know if any of your watchers or viewers watch like cemeteries, but I want to tell you something. People say, "Oh, there's nothing but evil things in cemeteries." Wrong. I mean, in all the years that Russ and I have been doing this, we've only had one really bad experience, and that was at the prison in Montana. And Russ was on the second tier of the cell block and walked into a cell in like a room. And he said it felt really heavy in there, and all of a sudden he got hit across the chest, like flew backwards like 3 feet into the wall. And he got hit so hard that it embedded the paint from the wall into his coat, the back of his coat. So yeah, he was about ready to quit then. That was about, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago now. But yeah,
a lot of people would have quit.
Yeah, I didn't let him know. I said, you got to get back on the horse, because I wasn't ready to quit. Yep. I wasn't ready to quit yet. And we're still doing it. Here we are, 64 years old. We're still doing it. So.
You got any investigations coming up?
Actually, yes, we do. On Saturday, we're combining me and Russ with another team. We'd gone to this old bridge twice and experienced this really strange stuff. And we wanted to verify to see if we could capture it again with someone else there. so that people would understand that we were just imagining things. And sorry, Russ is yawning in the background. So yeah, what we heard out there, I actually put a video out that said something like, does Western Washington have a Mothman? Because we heard these giant wings. I'm not kidding. You guys can think I'm crazy or something, but we heard these giant whoosh, whoosh wings, and didn't see nothing though. Could not see anything, and it was right above our heads, and we know that it wasn't like an owl because I've heard owls take off above my head, and it did not sound like that. It was not an eagle because eagles don't fly. Bald eagles don't fly at night. Oh, sorry, my dog's barking. Dobby, shut up. Russ, could you? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, and then the other thing we heard was this banging on the bridge, and it's one of those old green metal bridges, and it's got the floor of it, or where you drive on, is like steel. And it's like this crisscross pattern. You can see down through it to the water below. And you can hear this banging noise. We went out there twice and got the same thing. Different each time. First time it was right next to us. It was like this bang, bang, bang. And it only did it 3 times. And then the second time we went out there was just recently, a couple months ago, I guess. And it happened again, but it was a little farther away. But when Russ turned, there's this one clip that when he turns, you can see the shadow right in front of it, and the light was not going through it. I was on the other side, and he was filming me walking this way, and all you could see was the shadow, and then all of a sudden it just like dissipated. Strange stuff. I love those kind of things when I have to figure them out, or we have to figure them out. So yeah.
So you're going back to try to check that out once again.
Yep.
There you go.
It's always good to have people with you. Yeah, it's always good to have somebody else come along. Now you watch. We'll get back out there. I have the clips that you can hear the banging, and there's EVPs out there too. So we know that a girl committed suicide out there because she told us in the EVPs. But this banging is what I'm really curious about because we do EVPs all the time. I mean, obviously, as an investigator, that's what we do. But I want somebody else to hear what we heard and see if they can help us figure out what it is, because I have no clue. Russ doesn't either. We've been doing it, like I said, a long time. So, if we can't figure it out, something's not right. Something's not right. So somebody needs to be our eyes and ears along with our own to verify what we're hearing, or try to anyway. Because it's either paranormal or it's not. That's just as simple as it is. Yeah.
Any other investigations you got upcoming, or are you going to any Paracons this year?
You know what? This is the sad part about the West Coast. I always tell people we're the redheaded stepchild of the Northwest, because they don't have Paracons out here much. We had a bunch of teams here, and then they've just dropped off. And it's not because we don't have haunted places. We got tons of haunted places, but there's only like the team that we're going to be working with. There's another team in Seattle, and those are the only 2 I know of in Washington now. Wow. Besides us. Well, maybe in Eastern Washington, but I don't get over there that much. So, but there's several in Oregon, I know. But it's sad because we don't have any. I want to put together a Paracon, and I'm planning on doing it next year. I just didn't have time this year to do it. So I'm going to start working on it this fall and have it done by hopefully next September. So it takes a lot of, takes a lot to put them together.
A lot of time. You got to get the right location. And the first year, of course, you're not looking for a very big location, because it's not like you're going to have 5,000 people come through a day.
Right.
On a new Paracon. Right. You gotta have it near a major city.
Mm-hmm.
So people
probably in a major city. And Seattle's our bit. Well, they have some stuff in Bellingham that I want to check further into. I got to do some history research and stuff, but Seattle has the most hauntings that I know of. And I have a friend down there. His name is Ross Allis, and he runs A Ghost out of Seattle. Really great guy. And maybe he can kind of point me in the right direction because he's got his own tour down there, a ghost tour,
there you go.
which is pretty cool. So yeah.
Heck, he might help you out in it. He may help you out financially. You don't know. Maybe you can start a not-for-profit corporation that does a Paracon,
Yeah.
and split it up with him.
I always like people to come and see what we got, because we got some pretty good haunted places here that people would really enjoy. Nothing like the South or nothing like you guys have in Central United States, but it seems like I said, we're just kind of up here in the corner and nobody really knows about the hauntings we have here, which I'm going to be putting out my book here pretty soon. That's going to have a lot of stuff that Russ and I have, a lot of places we've gone across the United States, but mostly here in Washington, and I think there's a couple in Oregon or something, but yeah, mostly Montana. I love Montana.
Wait, well, you got another issue is the media coverage. So media, you got everybody's got in the paranormal's got a podcast, but most of them are on the East Coast. Like my network WLFE DB is based out of New York, or New York State, not New York City, New York State. Several others like Dan Orville, he's in the Chicago area, and of course he's doing wonders and thunders, doing documentaries up there because he has a film crew.
Right.
Did you see what he did this past week with Miranda?
Dan and I and Russ have been best friends for 15 years now.
So you know what Dan did this past week with Miranda?
Oh yeah, I love Miranda. I was on her show a couple times. We had so much fun, and after the show was over, we talked for like 2 hours. Both times I was on there, it was fun. We had a good time.
I've been on her show. She's been on my show. She's a fantastic person. Dan could not have found a better person to do what he was doing this past week.
Yeah, she was doing the talking about the place they were filming, so that was pretty cool. Yeah,
it's absolutely amazing. He couldn't have found a better person.
Right.
What was that?
Oh, that's my kitty cat, my little kitten.
Okay.
He always has to get up here on my computer, so I have to keep him down because I think he erased my book that I was writing. So it's not real happy with him right now.
It's called external hard drives.
Yeah, I think I might have found it, but I do not want to rewrite everything that I had gone back and so
I'm in the process of writing a book. I have it on a flash drive. I have it on an external hard drive, and I have it on one computer hard drive where I can go in there and add to, manipulate whatever, and then save it to the hard drive, the external hard drive, save it to the flash drive, then unplug both of them.
Right.
So they can't get erased.
Yeah, I had it on several guys, and Dan's in chat. Hi, Dan. Hey, buddy. He said he's going to stop by, so.
No, Dan Orville, hey. I thought he was going to be busy with Miranda tonight.
No, she's at home. She went home. And Dan said they're just all exhausted because the last 3 days they've just been going. And so, yeah, it's nice for him to stop by. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it, buddy. But the other things that, I'm more than a paranormal investigator. I've been going to school. And I've got my bachelor's in metaphysical sciences. I'm working on my master's right now. I do tarot readings, and I'm getting ready to start doing some meditation stuff, instructing people how to do meditation. And, I do healings, I do house cleansings, and people cleansing. There's a lot of people come home. From investigations with some attachments, and so we help get rid of that. And I just do all kinds of stuff. I'm an ordained minister, so yeah, I get into a lot of stuff. I just like to be well rounded, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. looking forward to doing some new experiments in the paranormal with some ideas I have. I'm coming from the metaphysical side of things and the divination side of things. So, yeah, really excited about that. I told Miranda when me and Dan and her talked the other night that I want to come to her jail and do this experiment I've been wanting to do forever. And she said that would be awesome. So I'm looking forward to that someday.
Yeah, that's a pretty good trip for you.
It's okay.
From where you live for jail.
Yeah, well, Russ and I, our goal here in the next very near future is to get a van so we can throw a bed in the back, and we're going to start traveling again. And we're going to get back to Illinois, go down and see Miranda in Tennessee, go to Gettysburg, I have a huge bucket list I want to go to yet, so before we retire. So.
Well, I wish you luck on your entire bucket list.
Yeah, I probably won't get to everywhere, but the most I want to go back to do some ghost towns. If you guys have never done ghost towns, you got to. It's the most amazing experience because you get to step right into that history. And Russ and I are history crazies. We love history, and so when we get into that, we're trying to make sure that we are helping people understand that it's not just about the ghosts, it's about the history too, and how you combine those things to make a good investigation and something you could actually write a book about if you do it right. So it's really important, that these young investigators out there that are just coming into the field, that they need to talk to people like me or Dan or Len, anybody who's been in it for a while, so that you guys can learn something new. That's the thing about the paranormal. If you're not learning something new every single day when you're doing investigations or otherwise, or you're just watching things about it, then you're not doing something right. You got to make sure that make sure that you're learning, because there's so much to learn, and we've just barely touched the afterlife. Barely.
Exactly. So. I fully agree with what you just said, that this was a personal goal of myself and my wife before we got married. Was our number one goal when we got up in the morning was learn something new every day.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still. She just turned 60 this summer. I turned 66.
Yeah.
We still want to get up in the morning and learn something new every day.
Yeah. And
Dan said it's about history and respect for that history and the spirits.
Yes. Me and Dan talk a lot about that stuff, and Russ too, of course. He's just not on here with me, but he's like my connection. We're like connected at the hip. So everything I say usually, or he'll start putting his 2 words in too, because that's how we make sure that everything gets out that we need to tell people. And a lot of times I forget, or he'll forget, and I fill in the blanks, or he fills in the blanks. Yeah. So yeah, we're just, old paranormal investigators have been around for a long time. That's all. And your brain gets so filled up, you don't quite know what to do with it half the time, but because nobody really wants to talk. Them young kids, they don't want to talk to us old timers. They want to do it themselves, which is perfectly good. But if you need a little leg up, maybe you need to focus a little bit on learning what you can learn from say us or you or Dan or whatever, Miranda even, and then taking that and molding it into the way that you want to do it, because there's no right or wrong way to do it. So
that's all right, Dan. I can understand a storm knocked Miranda's power out. You got to feel sorry for her.
Yeah.
No, don't worry about me. I got power, or I wouldn't be here.
Right.
We're more worried about her having power down there.
Mm-hmm.
But Dan, I appreciate you connecting Sandy and I, because she had her own internet issues. So it's fate that Sandy and I got together tonight. So this whole show everybody's watching, it was fate. It's a coincidence. Well, I don't really believe in coincidence. Things happen for a reason. Almost everything does.
Absolutely, I agree.
And by the way, if you want to see more of Sandy Wells, you see on your screen 2 YouTube pages. This is her 2 YouTube channels. So if you want to see more of Sandy Wells, go to these 2 channels, and you can see a whole lot more of Sandy Wells without me getting in the way.
One of them is American Ghost Hunters, SJ and Russ. The other is my spiritual page that I just started. It's called Sacredopedia, kind of like encyclopedia, but Sacredopedia by Sasa and Kata. Kata is my Monday night host, and we do tarot readings together. It's very cool. You guys ought to watch it. It's live. Yeah. So that's what those are, if you're just wondering. If you want to copy and paste them or whatever. Yeah. So I do readings all the time.
Well, there they are. There they are for the world to see. Mm-hmm. Tell everyone, I'm not familiar with tarot card reading. I don't know one card from another. I say, okay, here's this guy here. I'm not sure what he's doing, or what this means. Right. For people who are like me, could you explain a little bit about tarot?
Well, tarot is a divination system. Here, like these cards here. I have 11 different decks. These are tarot cards. Okay. These are not original tarot cards. These are an updated version, kind of like a modern version of, and on them, I don't know if you can see it. It tells you kind of what they're about. They have there's the definition for each card. The normal tarot deck is a 78 card deck, and you shuffle them, and believe it or not, I'll be shuffling away at them and asking a question to the spirits, spirit guides actually, or angels, and they will flip the cards out for me. I don't even have to draw them out. I mean, it's an interesting process. If you guys want to watch it, come to my Sacredopedia channel. You can see how I do the readings, me and Kata, and it's very, very fun, actually. And it usually comes out where we're pretty right on about what people are going through in their life, and try to help them with that, because, a lot of people kind of, with all this stuff going on in the United States for the last few years, people are lost, and they just want to have fun again, and they just want to be on the right track again, and they just don't know how to get there, because a lot of them been through a lot of trauma. It's been quite an ordeal for everybody, and so that's why light workers like myself and Kata are here, just to help you, guide you, kind of put you back on the right trail, so that you can get on with your life and not feel so, I don't know, depressed and all that. That's what we do. So, and we're more than happy to help. Oh, then it's not just tarot deck. It's you also get oracle cards, which are basically the same thing as a tarot deck, except the only difference is an oracle card is more in depth. Will give you more messages than just. I mean, I have 11 decks. I have cards. I have a book about angel numbers. Like, if you see repeating numbers, like, I don't know, like 111, 333, 444, or whatever. There's usually a reason for that. It's a guide sending you messages that they want you to know. But a lot of people don't understand what that means. So that's why I'm here to help you with those kind of things. And if you want to contact me, I'm on Facebook under Santa Justine Wells, or Sacredopedia by Sasa, because that's my spiritual name, Sasa. And yeah, so that's pretty much what I can tell you about them right now. There's a lot to it.
Okay, can you pick up the latest lottery number, since they're giving away $1.2 billion?
I don't do lottery numbers, bud. We're not allowed. See, that's the thing about people. People think that, really, right. They do. They think we know everything. If you're a psychic, you're supposed to know everything. You can't be wrong about anything. Totally bogus, because what we get is usually messages from past loved ones. Like, as an investigator, I am a psychic investigator, so I go in, I pick up what I can about the spirits that are in the location, and then I stop, and then I'm the investigator. That's what I do. I document everything. I record it on my voice recorder, and and then we try to validate it by matching up the history to who worked there, who lived there, so forth. Yeah. And then if I get it right, then that's good validation for me that my gifts are on track. So I like that a lot. It's my big thing. So
cool. Well, I was just being silly about the lottery thing.
It's okay.
But we 1.2 billion. We could go get a one heck of a location and do one heck of a Paracon.
I would love to be able to build like a big, warehouse where it's all air conditioned and everything. So if people came, they wouldn't roast it, or some, and, you have like a bandstand in there, so people could do their speaking engagements kind of thing. I'm on for it. If I can figure out a way to do it, believe me.
Okay, sorry. Dan. Okay, let's give the kitty cat a little FaceTime here. What is her name?
His name is Toot.
Toot? Oh, Toot.
Because when I first saw him, I said, "Oh, he's such a little Toot." And that's how he got his name. So this is Toot.
Hello, Toot.
He's my baby.
Good little cat.
Yeah, he's only about he's about 2 months old now. Yeah.
Okay. So. Dan Norville had a question. He said,
okay.
Sandy, I meant to ask you last night, how do spirits block other spirits from communicating on dowsing rods?
Dan, I can tell you this much, what I know. If the spirit that is blocking another spirit has more energy, has been in spirit, spirit form longer, then their abilities are, and it depends on their emotions too, believe it or not. They have emotions just like we do. And if they're angrier or stronger in some way or whatever, then they are going to be able to block and hold in place other spirits. They kind of put like the other spirits in a jail almost. I mean, it's crazy. I've seen it happen a few times. And I would say that, yeah, that's what I would assume, because I've had it happen many times in investigations where I start speaking to one spirit and then all of a sudden this other one steps in and I'm getting a total different feel. It's like they step in front of the other spirit or consume that other spirit by their own energy. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I do know that it's stronger. Their energy is stronger, and that's how they can hold someone from speaking to you. So dowsing rods, I would assume would be the same way. Did it happen last night?
Yeah, it happened to him. With him and Miranda.
Right. I've had a lot of different experiences with dowsing rods myself, and it can get interesting. I mean, because if you're at a place where you're at a place where there might have been some bad spirits, like say a prison or whatever, then obviously you're going to run into a lot more malevolent kind of spirits than you would normal spirits. So yeah, that's what I would say. And Dan, you already knew that, you stinker. You already knew that.
My one experience with that thing was at Ethel's party. That was the name of the bar. It was Ethel's party, and it was the bar. But it had only been a bar for about 8 years.
Okay.
For about 90 to 95 years before it became a bar, it was a funeral home in Chicago.
Okay.
And they had a month before, about 2.5 weeks before I was born, there was a funeral of a mobster there. And it was a couple thousand people attended that funeral.
Yeah,
but they still had the little.
Think of the energy from who came to that funeral. Just saying. Yeah.
And all they did was put the bar there, what used to be one of the hallways where you went on either side of the little chapel they had set up. They still had the stage that was set up for the bodies to be viewed, and the basement they didn't do anything. You still had the old brick area, the brick room, that was used for cold run. They had finally refrigerated the thing after several years, but of course, when it was first opened as a funeral home back in the early 19 teens, over 100 years ago, there was no ice. No refrigeration. There was only ice, and they had them laid out on steel, with ice under them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where one spirit hung out, Bruno Rodi. He was a nasty guy.
Yeah.
He made his money before Al Capone got to Chicago. He ran the Black Hands gang, which was a 26th Street mob. Because I'll tell you the location. The bar has moved. It's a closed building now. It's on the corner of Wentworth and 26th Street.
Okay.
Which is a nice place for the 26th Street mob to be.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to make a long story short here, he stayed there, and he had over the years got about over 20 spirits. He had, as you put it, jailed inside that location. And once we could get past him, because he would fade in and fade out. They can't sustain energy for hours on end.
No, they can't.
Especially in a bar when there's not that much power going on. But there was. Dan's going to bed. Dan's tired.
Night, Dan.
Good night, Dan.
Talk to you soon, buddy.
Sleep well. And we'll be talking to you later on, Dan. Dan is a great guy.
He really is.
He really is.
What you see is what you get.
But anyway, that's exactly. And what you see is not a bad thing at all.
No, he's
He's smart. He's got a great team he works with, and he's very, very easy to work. We're a very easygoing guy, and he knows how to do the paranormal the right way.
Yep, he sure does.
Greg Koss, and Dale Kazmarek, all good friends from the Chicago area.
Right.
And that's not a bad group right there.
Yep.
I also did one event. If you may have seen it on Facebook, that I did with Richard Crow. His last John Dillinger event. I recently, on the anniversary, I posted it on Facebook. I think I've got the only recording of one of his John Dillinger's events, and it was the last one, because that's in the middle of July. And on that one, he was scheduled to do it again, of course, the next year, but he died in June. He was a great guy, and I went to that event, and of course he was there early. I got there early, although I did do an investigation of the alley and the back of the old Red Lion Club, which is at that time was closed. It's reopened now. In fact, it was open 6 years ago when I left Chicago. Went to eat there, one of the last places I ate at in Chicago. But I investigated that, and then went back to the alley after Richard was done investigating it. I couldn't get anybody to go with me. I was just investigating that alley by myself. A known haunted location. Before Richard got started, they actually allowed me in the Biograph Theater for a while, and I got some video of the inside of the Biograph.
Okay.
Which was amazing in itself. And then I got to sit at a bar for 2.5 hours with Richard Crow. There's been ghost hunting since, I don't know where he started. Russ and I
would love to come investigate with you, but we're pretty good investigators ourselves.
Yes. You would probably like to come to the Allen House. Now, I think Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters has been there. The Ghost Brothers, the Allen House investigation of theirs was their first episode.
Really? I don't watch them.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
And I did it for laughs.
Yeah.
The Allen House is about 30 miles from where I'm sitting. And I've been in there, contacted the primary ghost, Liddell Allen. She is in and out. She was a suicide. And her son, Alan, who also died in his early 20s, he went to New York, had a good job, and all of a sudden just died. That happened a lot in the 1800s.
Yeah, it did, actually.
He's a jokester and loves to entertain the tours they give of the Allen House.
That's cool.
I was in there one night, had a ghost box, Echo Vox, same thing, going, and a tour walked through. Only one guy came through wearing a baseball cap. So I said, Alan, what can you tell me the name of the gentleman who just walked in the room wearing the baseball cap? And there was no mistaking, there was only one.
Right.
Alan immediately named a name, loud and clear. Everybody heard it.
Wow.
The guy, and I did not know his name. I had never seen this man before. When I asked Alan to do that, he'd only been in the room 15, 20 seconds. And that's the only 15, 20 seconds I'd ever seen this guy.
Right.
Didn't see him much after that either. He heard his name called, his eyes got real big, and the legs got real busy. He ran out of the room and out of the house.
Yeah. I mean, you know, have you ever walked around a corner and just something just shocks you? It's not like you're not like you're afraid of it, but it's like it's just there. It's like, whoa, okay, shock and awe, you know. But then you're not afraid of it. And a lot of people ask Russ and I. There's some main questions they always ask us, but the biggest thing is, what is your strangest and most scariest experience? Well, that would be kind of hard to say over as long as we've been doing it. But the scariest one was when Russ got hit. I mean, that was pretty scary because it scared him to death. He's never had that kind of, he had never had that experience up until that time. Normally we ran into a lot of malevolent spirits over the years, but nothing that we couldn't handle, nothing that was that like violent and stuff. But that was craziness. I mean, nothing. I mean, and right before then, we captured an EVP that said, "Why don't you get out of here?" And it was exactly those words too. And it was a real long sentence, which, you know, we don't normally get. Usually it's like a couple words or something at the most, and the rest fades out or whatever. But this one was live, and it was a sentence. I mean, which is pretty unusual. So, yeah. Russ and I have run across some really strange and unique experiences over the years, and I can't tell. Just gonna have to read. You just gonna have to read my book to hear a lot of this, because normally my Russ is with me, and he can fill in the blanks where I forget things, because I've probably forgotten more about the paranormal than I can remember. So that's what happens when you get a little older. The past kind of gets away from you a little bit. So how you gonna do, right?
That's all you can do is write it down, or keep your old videos, so you can watch your videos and say, oh yeah, that happened there, and then you can go back and write about the incident because it's fresh in your mind.
Yeah,
because you just saw the video.
Well, the hardest thing is keep it. Okay, I've had two computers. Now the first one I didn't have like an external hard drive connected to it, but the second one I did. The first one just died. I lost probably 10 years worth of photos and videos and all kinds of things. And then the second one died. Thank God I had the external hard drive hooked, but guess what? Guess what happened? Then the external hard drive broke. Not the hard drive itself, but the connector thing. It fell inside of the thing. And I still have that waiting to take it and have the hard drive, scrubbed and find all my photos and stuff.
Right.
If I could go back 40 some years and find all the photos and things, when Russ and I go to an investigation, especially now with the digital cameras, we can do up to 200 or 300 photos in one investigation. So, and Russ laughs at me because as soon as we get home, I'm like plugging the SD card in and going through photos to see if we captured anything. And it could be 2 o'clock in the morning, but I'll stay up till I go through all those photos. And then the next day I'll go through them again. I'm a very good analyzer of photos and video and stuff, and Russ is too, but yeah, he's better at the DVR kind of stuff. We used to have a DVR system that we had 6 cameras going, and not to mention the static cams we sat on tripods. And yeah, I mean, we had all the equipment, but guess what we use now? A camcorder, kind of, and a camera, our phones, Little toys for the spirits to play with, our dowsing rods. I use pendulums. What else? Ghost box. We have a ghost box, and we have voice recorders, and we have a cassette recorder that I just got again because I love the way that EVPs come out on cassette tape. You guys may not know about it, but it works really good. The magnetic tape draws in those voices, and you can hear them a lot clearer than you can on digital. They don't have that tinny robotic sound.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard that. Just you go to a pawn shop and find a good cassette recorder, and you're set up. And you can get those cheap.
They have them on. I think I got mine on Amazon, or maybe it was Fingerhut. But you can still get them, and you can still get the tapes. So if you want to try it, it's a good experiment. I mean, and you tape it, and the tapes are about 90 minutes long. So you got a good amount of time to do whatever you're going to do with EVPs. And then to get it up there, I don't know, mine has something where you can transfer it. I think it had an SD thing in it. I can't remember, but because we just got it again, so I haven't had a chance to play with it yet. But yeah, it's one of our favorite things because we got some amazing EVPs out of a place we did called the Oxford Saloon in Snohomish, Washington. And we documented 7 ghosts in that building, 7 different ghosts. Not to mention 7. Yeah, the different voices, the different, I don't know, I know what I'm talking about, but I can't explain it right now. I can tell you if I go back and looked at what we documented about it, but yeah, I know there were 7. Yeah. Some people said, oh, there's 18 ghosts in that building. No, there's not. There's like 7. And I don't think they're there all the time. Just, yeah.
Oh, one thing I didn't say a while ago, didn't finish my thought. Then I got to go to commercial break.
Mm-hmm.
The ghost I said was in that bar.
Yes.
I went in there with a psyche and we freed them all.
Oh, good. Good.
Bruno Rodi was, of course, like most gangsters, a practicing Catholic.
Yes, that's good.
And of course, he had kind of lost his religion, so we approached it from that. Yeah. And he sounded like a preacher, although I'm definitely not.
Right.
But went in there and said, "Christ forgives you. I forgive you." He attacked me 2 or 3 times, and I said, "I forgive you. Mm-hmm. You need to release these people, these spirits."
Right.
He released them all, and he was stuck in that bar, mainly stuck in the cold room.
Right.
He could go upstairs once in a while, but mostly was downstairs. And I said, look, if you can turn on the good side, accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, mm-hmm. you can go see anything you want to, go to anywhere you want to go.
And I can do that anyway. Yep.
See, now I've passed by him once or twice. A psychic has seen him 2 or 3 occasions, and he's a happier spirit just roaming the world, just having fun.
Yep, exactly. And I want to talk about after that, after your commercial break. I want to talk about that for a second because a lot of people don't understand about spirits and transitioning them and all that.
Okay. So it's only going to be about a 30-second commercial break, and I'll go ahead and start it right now. We can't ask for a better intro. And if you got anything you want to say about these 3 places, that's all I want to. I don't have a video right now. I did have, but the event's already passed. But
non-con, is that what that is?
Non-com 7, I think. This is September 23rd, so it's got a ways. If you're in this area, go take a look. It's got Pottstown Elementary. That's a haunted location.
Yes, Pottstown. Yeah, I've heard of it.
It's a 2-day event. They're having it there, and anytime you can go to a Paracon or an event at a haunted location, I say go. If you're in that area and you got the money, go.
I would.
Some people, like Dale Kaczmarek, he does very few public investigations because invariably the public gets in the way. But you have a lot of amateur people. People don't know what they're doing. But
and they can get annoying.
Yes. But if you can put up with that, or maybe get away from everybody else, and they let you stay in there, that's the place to be. I went to a public thing several years ago when I first came down here to Arkansas. So it was 6 years ago now, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an opportunity to go to, excuse me, go to the French Quarter Wax Museum in New Orleans, and it was on a tour, but they said it was going to go to 5 o'clock in the morning. By 2 o'clock, the tourists had gone. Now they followed me around because I was the only real paranormal investigator there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people running the tour, I was the only one there. The person who was there from the museum knew the guy who was from the tour group. They sat up there in the office and played video games and locked me in the main part of the museum for 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Try staying in a location with no lights on, just, red, green, UV lights, IR lights, in a location for 2.5 hours alone. I had my Echo Vox going, so I was never really alone because I was talking to various spirits the whole time.
Right.
And I've talked to several paranormal investigators. They said there's no way I could go into a wax museum alone, and realized that I had to go through 4 malls to get to the only unlocked door.
Right.
So I was on my own. That's was interesting. And down in New Orleans, one of the most haunted cities in the country. But that's some things you can fall into on a public event. You never know when you're going to be left alone and really some serious investigating.
Right.
Okay, this one. This is at least closer to you.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, San Jose. Okay.
Yes, I believe this is what, October 12th, if I'm reading this right?
Yep.
So
I know Lloyd.
if anybody is anywhere near this place, I would say look into it. And is that down in San Jose? Take a look. Now, last place is this gentleman has been a guest on this show. He's running a smaller event, D&M Paranormal, Mineral Springs Hotel. Of course, I got East Coast, West Coast, and the middle here in Alton, Illinois, September 24th. Don't know if Dan's going to go to this or not, but he can get there in time pretty quick from his place.
Sorry, my dog.
And you see how he's approaching it. He's the site history, paranormal Q&A, and guided investigation.
Okay.
And for the price there, being in a haunted location once again, that's a good way to meet some good paranormal investigators.
Yeah.
And see how they investigate the Mineral Springs Hotel. And maybe next time you want to go there and do it on your own, you can pay them yourself, because that's a paid location. Most locations are paid. They have power bills, they have rent bills, or if they own the place, they got a mortgage on the place, or at least in debt some way or another. Even if you paid $50,000 for it, that's still $50,000 out of your wallet. You need to make that $50,000 back at the very least,
and hopefully a little bit more. I mean, for all the work you put into it.
Yeah, you should be able to get every dime you got out of it, and then put a little bit in your wallet to boot for your trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But most people don't realize that. I don't understand folks like that. But anyway, D&M Paranormal, they're a good group of people. Like I said, I've had them on the show. So if you want to go see the Mineral Springs Hotel and you don't want to go in there by yourself, can you afford to go in there by yourself especially, this would be your chance. And at that kind of price they've got listed right there, that's a very good chance to go into a very interesting location.
Yeah, I would like to go there. I've never been to the Mineral Springs Hotel, so.
There's another place you'd be interested in. There's two Mineral Springs hotels. One in Alton, that one, and another one in Oakville. This is a working hotel.
Okay.
A very old, very haunted hotel. They've had a suicide. They've had
Wow.
you're talking about all of the 20th century because they're still open. They still got stuff going on there, and you've got the old gangland because they used to use that hotel for a meetup place. And if St. Louis gangs needed to talk to Chicago gangs, they usually met there because of the hot springs. They could lounge around in the springs.
Right.
I've investigated the place before. Got quite a few experiences before. Take your husband, go there for a couple of nights. You can investigate, and the Mineral Springs that you can sign up for it in the mornings or sign up for the afternoons, whatever. Sign up for both, and soak in very hot mineral spring water. You will feel better.
I've heard of it, but I've heard of different places like that. There's one in Oregon. It's in La Grande. I can't think of the name of it, but if I find out, I'll let you know. It's a good place to investigate, from what I understand. It's a hotel now, but it used to be like a spa where people. I'm sorry, my dog. Where people will come and soak in the water, kind of like the Mineral Springs, but it's something else. I don't know what it was something else that was so special about it. I don't know, but the place is definitely haunted. From what I understand, there's a lot of places over here that a lot of people have probably never even heard of or even investigated. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, what were we going to go into when you came back?
Oh, you were talking about releasing the spirits were in that place. Okay. What I don't understand, and there's nothing wrong with having a place that is haunted and you own it and you're trying to share it with other people. And the ghosts are, like they like the activity that the people coming in, they get to talk to them, interact with them, that kind of thing. But also what is kind of irritating for me sometimes is if we go into location, I'm not talking about somebody that's owning a place or anything, I'm just talking about any investigation. If we go into an investigation and we do not, like, say we got EVPs that say get out or blah, blah, blah. Well, that's kind of typical of what we get. But some of them say, help me. That means that ghost wants to leave. It doesn't want to stay there anymore. It wants to be transitioned into the light and do what spirits do on the other side. Why we as investigators, a lot of us don't transition those ghosts away from so they can get on with their spiritual life. I mean, they can't, or spirit life, they can't do it stuck in a building. I mean, I've always wanted to ask people that why don't we more people do that? Why don't they allow the person? Now, obviously, if it's at home or something, people's not going to really care if you let the ghosts go to where they need to go. But some people get upset with you if you try to get rid of their ghosts, and they shouldn't, because you're using those ghosts like a circus act, in my opinion. I'm sorry, you get mad at me, I don't care, but I've been in this for a long time, and I've seen a lot of ghosts really upset. I
don't get mad at people.
Yeah.
But one place, if you do any research on John Dillinger, the location where he got put in jail,
right,
and escaped by getting a bar of soap, cutting it into the shape of a gun, and using black shoe polish to break out of the jail. That jail, they were always open. They were using the paranormal to refurbish the place. They were making money to do maintenance, pay the power, Nothing. I said there's nothing wrong with that. You need to keep the location up. If it's got some historical significance,
right?
Use the paranormal to keep the building up. I have no issues with that.
Right.
But they let this female psychic in one night, and she completely cleaned the place.
See,
Nobody
that's not good.
Nobody could pick up anything at all. They had to shut down for several months until they got another psychic in there to invite spirits to the place. So now you don't know who's in there.
She did what?
She invited other spirits in. Would try to contact spirits in the area, saying they could come into that location.
Okay. Never heard of that. But that's
that's a new one on you.
Yeah. Well, normally because it's like playing a Ouija board. If you don't know who's going to be there, you're inviting something. You could be inviting, a serial killer spirit in. You don't know, and he's going to be malevolent. He's going to be mean, and you're going to have people hurt. So you got to be really careful what you do.
Really careful.
Yeah, when you're messing with the spirit world, you got to be careful. I've closed. I couldn't tell you how many portals over the years, trying to keep, like pushing these spirits out of that, back into the portal that were causing problems for our families or just regular buildings, staff members, all that stuff, because somebody did that. They opened up the portal, they allowed whatever to come in, and then didn't close it again. That's the bad part. That's the bad part.
That's the bad part.
Yeah.
But what you're referring to is why don't more people get the spirits to kind of move on instead of being stuck in a place? As I said, I did it in that one bar. I got Bruno Road to move on,
and that's wonderful. I think it's great.
And I did the same thing for Amelia Patrick Humphrey, because I freed up her child. Her child followed me. Believe it or not, 11 months, 4 days old. I don't know your experience with young children in the paranormal, but this child had learned to talk. She could talk on a ghost box if she wanted to contact you.
Yes.
She contacted me because I was sitting in a chair about 20 feet from her grave and was falling asleep because there was nothing. I was getting nothing, absolutely nothing. And she came in. Meters have never worked in Bachelor's Grove. I've seen people come in there with male meters, K2 meters, natural meters, you name it, meters.
Right.
And I've only seen 2 react. One was a male meter that had a tick on it. That's it. It went off for a second, and that was it. Somebody had I forget if it was a male or a K2 or natural. It was one of the 3. It reacted for maybe a few seconds. They might have got 15, 20 seconds out of it, and that's it. My K2 reacted only because none of the lights came on, because I got a special K2 with a temperature sensor on it. And Libby May, the child, got to playing with it, and she would squeeze it with her hands and would change the tone. And the reason I say that is because it's not like I saw her hand on my K2.
Right.
It's just that's the only way I could imitate the sounds she would make with the alarm.
Right.
Because she would get it gently and touch it, and it would sound off, and then like your fingers are like this on something, and as fast as you move your fingers, like you were doing Morse code or something, she'd be doing this with her fingers, and would almost play a musical tone. And the only way I could imitate that was to sit there and do this with my fingers, and it only did it in 2 places.
And that's hard to do. That's really fast. That's hard to do. So
it's really fast, and she would vary it to almost make a childish musical tone out of it.
That's cool.
And now, I took her to her hometown in Orland Park, where her father built a big house. So I took her there, and she thanked me by doing the same thing in that house for about 20, 30 seconds. And I've never had at any other location had any spirit touch that temperature sensor again. Wow. She was the only one who did it, and only did it once in the house, and at Bachelor's Grove several times.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, you know, let's talk. Let me talk here for a second about spirit ghosts or children spirits.
Go ahead.
Okay. There's a lot of misconceptions about child ghosts or child spirits. Everybody says, oh, they just automatically go to the other side. Well, they get lost on their way to the light too, just like any adult. The problem is most people now want to use those children's spirits for their own entertainment, which really I won't even say. I'll try. I try not to cuss on these shows, but that is one topic about calling these children evil spirits or demons.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's talking about it now, and it just makes me mad. Let's just put it that way. And I've gone off on that tangent. Sorry, I had a mosquito flying around. I went off on that tangent one show that I must have lasted 10 minutes about it, because it's just it irritates me. Because think about it now. You say you've lost your child, and that child is coming to visit you from the afterlife, and it hangs around because it doesn't know where else to go. And all of a sudden, people are telling you, "Oh, it's a demon. It's this. It's that." Really? If you were a parent, you lost your child, and somebody was calling it a demon, wouldn't you just be a little upset? Wouldn't that really just upset you, not only emotionally, but you know, it would make you think that when you go to the other side, your child, you automatically turn into a demon or something. That is so wrong. These children are just as innocent on the other side, if not more so, than they are in life or in death. And it just,
I fully agree.
I get so mad about this, because it's like black-eyed children. There is no such thing. It's a legend. I read about it online. Can't tell you how many times, and everybody's saying the same thing. It's folklore. It's a legend. Sorry, mosquito. And it's not real. I don't know what these people are seeing. They say, "Oh, I saw this," and I thought, really? Take a picture of it. Let us all see it. You know?
Yeah.
And if you're going to prove something to somebody in the paranormal, you better have evidence, because people are they're going to judge you. They're going to say, "Oh, come on, you're crazy. That didn't happen." But I can tell you, Russ and I have had some really weird experiences in the paranormal, and not even in the paranormal, but when we were just doing average everyday things that we cannot explain. So, it's not always what we think we know. It's about what we're experiencing, in this lifetime, because there are so many paranormal variables as to what what a haunting can be about. And most people go by certain things. Okay, a haunting is this, and that's just what it is. But no, there's just so many different things that you have yet to discover, if you haven't discovered it yet, of the possibilities that are out there. They're virtual. I mean, so many things that you can learn if you just open your eyes and pay attention every day when you're out doing something and you see something out of the corner of your eye. Guess what? You may have just walked past a spirit, because they're everywhere.
Yeah.
They're everywhere, literally. So,
well, I appreciate you saying what you did about child spirits, because I happen to agree with that.
Yeah.
Because that's something I've always heard. And when I started talking about Libby Mae Humphrey, a lot of people said, "Well, you better be careful. It's probably a demon." Like, there are no child spirits out there whatsoever. There's nobody, say, under 15 as a ghost.
Why?
And even the 15-year-olds are probably demons.
Oh, please.
There's a lot more child spirits out there than there are demons.
Yeah. Demons are very rare. And if you run into one, you're going to know it. You're going to know it. And there's not going to be any mistake about it. Trust me.
There's one, and this was told me by a person. I'll mention his name, Alan Lowe. Okay. He's from here in Arkansas. And when I discovered I was coming down here, I immediately contacted him. Unfortunately, he wanted me down here a couple of years earlier, and we didn't know each other.
Okay.
Because his team, he was having the same trouble I am now. There's nobody in Arkansas that wanted to go stunt with him. He had a lot of come and goers in his team, and he couldn't get anybody to stay. And he finally said, "Forget it. I'm moving on with my life."
Mm-hmm.
Now he's retired and repairing furniture at home. Anyway, he investigated a place in southwest Arkansas. If you look down there, it's a small town south of Texarkana.
Okay.
Right on the Texas border. And he was called down there because they said they're having issues. So they looked all over. They let them investigate the whole small town, like kind of like they do on TV.
Yep.
And when they investigate the whole city,
that's what we
and
did
he
here.
investigated all these buildings. Well, you know what I'm talking about, them,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't find much of anything. No real voices. Wasn't going anywhere.
Right.
So they asked him, "Well, one building we haven't checked out is this church over here." She said, "Well, that's an active church. That's the church. That's the house of God." He said, "Let me go in here because you never know what's hiding in a house of God."
Mm-hmm.
They went in the church, and in the basement, one of his big, looked like a biker guy. This was a big man.
Right.
Kind of what walks in a biker bar, and nobody discusses stuff with this man.
Right.
Alan went in there to see how he was doing. And the guy came out mumbling something about batteries. "Oh, I got to get new batteries. This piece of equipment doesn't have any more power. I got to get batteries." And going on and on about batteries as he walking out of the place.
Uh-huh.
He ran into another team member, and they were mumbling. And he just said, "Go outside." He went in there, and he said, had his guard up. He said, "Okay, this is where your demon is." Quickly walked out, talked to the people. He said, That's what you got. You got a demon that's hidden in that church, and I cannot combat a demon." And that was the end of their investigation. Because I said, "My people are not going back in that building. I'm not going back in that building."
Right. Well,
and I had one experience with a demon, and I could have gotten killed. So, like as you said just a few minutes ago, if you run into a demon, you will know it.
Mm-hmm. It's like like a psychic, when they walk into a building, they feel the energies, right? That they feel the shifts in the energies. Right. This spirit is weaker than this spirit. Like I was telling Dan earlier, some spirits, when they've been in on the ethereal plane for so long, and they have not, transitioned into the next level of their spiritual reality, I guess. Sometimes they get so strong, their energies, they learn. It's kind of like being on the earthly plane. They learn how to connect with the living. Sometimes they're so attached to what they did in the living while they were living, like physical objects and things like that. That's how we get haunted objects, is because they get attached to these things, and a piece of them is attached to it. Not the whole spirit, but just a piece of them, kind of like a footprint, like we talked about. And so it stays attached, and you can run into that spirit, and he or she has so much strength energy wise that they can actually kind of like imprison other spirits and use their energy to make them even stronger. That's the scary part, because you got some good spirits, and then you got some bad spirits that are taking over, kind of like a gang. They take over, and then they feed off of not only our fears, but they feed off of the spirit's fears as well. So that's how some spirits get stuck in certain locations, and they can't transition, because it could say like it was I don't know, It was a thief or something, and he held his hostages in that building, and then he killed them. Well, guess what? He still got power over him in spirit, because then he kills himself so he doesn't get arrested or whatever. Yeah, he's still got more energy over them because they're already afraid of him. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense to me, because I can perfectly understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's that energy is crazy. I mean, trust me on that.
my research agrees with you. Bruno Rodi was a powerful spirit, but something, be it his own self, kept him locked in that place. Yep. Hell, the stronger spirit could have been Al Capone, because Al Capone won't listen to anybody. He doesn't have to. You can try to exorcise him from a place, and he'll come back. So if I was you, don't try to contact Al Capone, because he will use you, and he will come into your house, and it will cause issues. And you can't run him off properly. He's too powerful. You're not going to run him off permanently. He would just come in when you least expect it, scare the hell out of you.
Right.
Because he gets off on that. He does not like me personally, because what I did with Bruno Rodi. So that's personal experience. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was thinking, whenever a thought comes in my head, I talk. I'm sorry.
I understand. I'm from the South.
It just comes rolling out.
Yeah.
But and then I lost my train of thought. Oh my God, 64. Okay, what were we talking about? Releasing ghosts or energies.
And energies, and how spirits can get more power feeding off other spirits.
Yeah, what I was gonna say was, I'm sorry about that, is that they sometimes the reason they get locked into certain places is because, like, okay, let me give you for instance. Russ and I did a place in Montana. It's called Virginia City. It's like the one in Nevada. Okay, it's a ghost. It's a semi ghost town. They just have all the old buildings and everything is there, and people now have businesses out of them and things. And a lot of people live in the town. Well, up above the town.
Where was this now?
In Virginia City, Montana. It's a semi.
It's kind of set up like Virginia City, Nevada. It's kind of set up the same way.
Yeah, but this one is. It's got a main town, like a main street where all the old buildings and stuff were, and the houses that sit up behind it. Yeah, but anyway, so above that is the cemetery. Okay, so let me tell you a little history about it. These 5 guys, they thought they were road agents, and they were stealing from stagecoaches and whatever, And so they hung them in this building, inside the building. And so once they hung them, they took their bodies up to what they called Boot Hill at the time. Crazy. But they took them up there and they buried them. And now they have their headstones up there. And they all have their names. Well, there's this one guy, his last name is Helm, Hellm. I can't remember his first name. But we were up there exploring cemeteries like we do. And all of a sudden we get ready to leave, and we're walking back to the car, and Russ gets in the driver's seat like he would normally. I got in the passenger seat, and we're driving, we're getting ready to go. And Russ was he was just acting weird, And I said, "What is wrong with you?" He goes, "I'm fine." But he didn't sound like Russ. It was almost like a different voice. It was weird. And then all of a sudden Russ turns on the car. He turns the key on. And he puts his hands on the wheels like he's, like how a kid does when you first learn to drive. You're like, got the white knuckle, And so he puts it, he looks down and kind of puts it in gear. And then we start driving down the hill, and we get to the bottom of the hill where the stop sign is. And he's looking around like, okay, what do I do now? Like he didn't know what he was doing. I thought he was having a stroke. I really did, because he just was not being himself. So we get out of town. We start going out of town. There's like a corner that you have to go around to start heading back towards another ghost town, which is called Nevada City. But anyway, so we're driving, we turn the corner, and I looked at Russ, and he's just like white knuckling it, like he doesn't know what exactly he's doing, you know. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm okay," you know. And then all of a sudden, I said, "You need to pull over because I don't like the way you're driving, and I'm worried about you." So it was like it took him like at least 2 minutes to figure out what he was supposed to do to pull off the road, you know, to stop the car. And so he does that. He gets out. I get out. We change seats. And as soon as he got the door closed, once he was in the passenger seat, he like his head dropped like this, and he was just out. And I'm like, what in that? I was scared to death because there was no hospitals around. This is out in the middle of nowhere. And we didn't have a cell phone then. That was back away. So we didn't have a cell phone. And I'm driving, and I knew there was a construction site like up ahead. So I was going to call and talk to those guys and see if they had a medic or, you know, if they knew where a hospital was or something. And as soon as I took off, started driving again, Russ is still passed out. And I thought, oh my God, he's had a stroke, and I'm here by myself. I don't know what to do. And so we're driving, and I get, I don't know, maybe a mile down the road, I guess. And all of a sudden his head pops up, and he said, "Where are we?" I said, "What do you mean, where are we? We're in the truck. We're driving away. What happened to you?" He says, "I don't know." He said, "I don't know." And this was after we were doing EVP session with that Helm guy in the cemetery. So Russ and I truly believe that spirit attached itself, jumped in, so to speak, and was trying to drive that car to get away from there because he's been stuck there, right? Well, then all of a sudden, when Russ woke up, we think he was yanked back to the cemetery because it was almost like he was spellbound there, like he was cursed to stay in that cemetery forever, eternally. And so I think it yanked him back like a rubber band, just went, pulled him right back, and Russ came back. That's what I believe.
I have no reason to doubt that. And maybe with a little work, if you wanted to, you could probably go back and free him from that little curse.
Mm-hmm.
But that's on you.
Yeah, but isn't that freaky though? That I mean, he was a bad guy. I don't care if he's stuck there. All the ones I care about is that the transition is the ones that, you know, little kids, and I do a lot of transitioning of children, and that's why I get so mad when people call them demons or
right.
Yeah. And so that was one of the weird, strange things that happened to us because Russ was fine. He was just fine. Matter of fact, we changed seats and he started driving again, and he was just fine. Never seen anything like that before. I mean, and I said, Russ, because Russ is intuitive too. So I said, will you stop glomming onto these spirits because they sure like you? I mean, he's had other weird things happen to him too that I've never had experience myself. I've never been through it myself except seeing it with my own eyes. Some of the things that guy's been through, I can't even tell you because it's probably gone. I mean, just weird stuff. I mean, it's all going to be in my book, so I'm not going to tell you all of it. But
right.
There's more to that story that I just kind of gave you the short version. But yeah, very strange.
Yeah,
very strange.
It's kind of similar to what I did with Libby May. She had followed me a couple of times to my house,
mm-hmm.
and she couldn't figure out how to get back to the cemetery.
Oh, yeah.
So we had to call her mother 2 or 3 times to come get her from our house. She finally learned that she could come to our house and go back to where she was supposed to go. But I did do an experiment and taught her something that she could do her on her own.
Right.
I said, let's do where you attach yourself to me, partial attachment.
Right.
So she attached to me to short. I said, we're going to go to your house. So we went out to her house, which is a historical place, an historical society of Orland Park. And one Sunday a month, it's open for tours. It was open that Sunday. So I got her inside and just said, go on, do what you want to do. But trouble is, my sister and I thought we were dealing with one spirit. We didn't realize that two of her siblings, who had also died young, one died, I think, at almost same age she had, about 2, and another one died at 7 or 8. You know how it is in the 1800s.
Right.
You're going to lose half your kids by the time they turn 10.
Yeah.
And they were playing with her, so we were.
A lot of miscarriages and stillborns.
Yes, a whole bunch. We didn't have one child with us. There were 3.
Oh, wow.
And we released them in the living room of the house that their father had built.
Right.
And there was another so-called psychic, and I will put the quote, so-called psychic. You know what I mean by that.
Been there, done that.
And I released him as he was trying to do a tour. And I said, Libby May's here, along with, and he named the other 2 kids. He said, this is not your event, this is my event. Okay. But he did try to contact her by name, and he did verify the fact that she was there and the other 2 kids were there.
Right.
Because he got him on a ghost box. Ever since then, he has not wanted to talk to me because he wants to claim ownership of those spirits so he can make money. One thing about Bachelor's Grove, the Forest Preserve, which owns all the property for several acres around that spot,
right,
and in some direction, a couple of miles, owns all that property because that's just it's green, unused acreage that's used as a massive park for green growth in Cook County. Cook County is a massive county.
Right.
In fact, Chicago takes up less than half of Cook County. And the Forest Preserve has something probably half the size of Chicago itself, just in trees. Some of it had been developed in the past, has grown back up. Some of it was industrial. Some of it was old homes like Bachelor's Grove. It just got absorbed into the Forest Preserve. But they wanted to build, because it was a popular path. People who don't even know what the cemetery is, they know it's there, but they won't go by it because they're using the Forest Preserve as a park. They're walking the dogs, just jogging, whatever.
Right.
Using it like a city park. And they the Forest Preserve thought about building some cabins across the path from the cemetery. And they don't allow people, you can't be in there from dusk to dawn. They were thinking about leasing these cabins out so you could actually spend the night there on the Forest Preserve, not too far from the highway, not too far from parking.
Okay.
You got to walk about a quarter mile to the parking area, which is nothing if you want to go camp out. No open flanks, there'll be no open campsite, but if you want to fire up a grill, go for it. So no uncontrolled fires, but you could have sat there and leased a cabin, and that's a great vacation.
Yeah.
You got acres and acres and acres of woodland that you can hike through. A little creek you can hear bubbling by there.
I love it.
And that sounds relaxing as heck. When I start describing, you start thinking about, wow, that'd be cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I love camping.
You had 3 or 4 people in the Chicago area screaming to the high heavens at the Forest Preserve because they insisted on leasing the cabins themselves every weekend for the first 6 months to a year when they finished them. They just wanted to get the money up front, lease the cabins every weekend for at least 6 months, and have it in their own contract not to allow any other paranormal person or paranormal group to be allowed to lease those cabins.
Oh man.
And the forester said, "What are you talking about? You're not paying for these cabins. This is on Cook County. It's on public land. We can't lock up you leasing every weekend for months to lease it out to other people, because that's what they were going to do. Lease the cabins out to other people. They were going to show up there, do some paranormal stuff, maybe sleep in a cabin themselves and do paranormal all night long."
Damn.
In the cemetery. And they had 3 or 4 people fussing about it so much. The Forest Preserve said, "F this, we're not building the cabins. Nobody's leasing anything." And then they start fighting over, we shouldn't allow big tours into the cemetery. The cemetery is not owned by the Forest Preserve, but you have to go across Forest Preserve property to get there.
Right.
Surrounded by Forest Preserve property.
Yeah.
So that's all the authority they've got.
Didn't there used to be a road that went right by the cemetery? That's what I've heard. Like there was.
Okay.
A road went across this other road or something, and it went right past the cemetery.
The quarter mile I was talking about to the parking area it's a quarter mile long path that used to be the highway.
Okay.
At that time, back when the Model Ts and Model A's were popular.
Mm-hmm.
They moved the highway over 100 yards.
Okay.
At the cemetery, it's about 100, 110 yards away from where the highway used to be. And that is indeed the path you walk down to the cemetery, is the old highway.
Right.
Passed within a matter of feet of the gate.
Hmm.
And it due to traffic, people jogging, going to the cemetery, whatever they're doing, keeps the path worn enough, and they keep it cleaned off enough. Now, for a while, it was getting really grown up, but because of what's been going on in the cemetery, the locals coming in there, kicking over the gravestones, and it being a hazard, the county owns that cemetery. Right. They will not admit they own the cemetery because they don't have insurance on it. They don't want to pay insurance on that cemetery.
Right.
Because it's not costing them anything. They were not maintaining it. So why should we keep insurance on there? Nobody even knows we own it. So for a long time, they lied. Cook County lied. Said, we don't own the thing. We don't know who owns it. Until somebody dug up the will for the last owner, when she said upon her death, the cemetery will belong to Cook County. And they can't sell it because it's in the middle of the Forest Preserve, which is also owned by Cook County, but they can't sell that cemetery without selling access.
Hmm.
And they don't want to really admit publicly they own it.
Right.
And so it's a crazy situation. They got fussed at by different paranormal people trying to block other paranormal people from doing tours. And they said, okay, no more paid tours.
Right. That's good.
You can come in here and do a public tour if you're not charging people. But if we catch you there, bring a bus into the parking lot, which is a quarter mile away and across the highway from the path. If we catch you in here, we're going to tell you to leave.
Right.
And they have that kind of authority because again, you have to walk on their property to get to the where theoretically they have no authority in the cemetery. But you said you got to be out of here by dusk, right? And we're gonna write you all up,
right?
If you step foot out here. So unless you want to stay here until tomorrow, and we'll just stand here waiting in the morning, and we'll write everybody up there. So you got your choice: being rid up now or later, and just if everybody who paid you money wants to stand there all night in the cemetery. So it's crazy. Anybody doing tours, I just has to deny. I said, "Oh, these people aren't. I didn't take any money yet."
Mm-hmm.
Because paranormal people fighting. We had one guy. He fortunately is not coming in there much anymore. He used to have a YouTube channel based on the cemetery, but for a while he would go. He's a little bit screwy, so you're going to think that when I tell you the story. He used to go in there and climb trees.
Oh man, can you give me 1 second off air because I got to shut my door? Can you?
I'll tell you what. I'll just knock you out, and I'll just come in there and have it and talk about the other places again or something.
And I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
Okay, not a problem, not an issue at all.
I got to get my dog in.
I understand. Hey, when you come back, give the dog some FaceTime.
Oh, shit.
Anyway, while she is getting the dog, we will talk about what's coming up. And I'm gonna have to turn on a light to read this. Good grief! What is got? Okay. All right, now turn on the light. Whoops! I could mute her mic so we don't hear her call her dog. There we are. Okay, coming up. I do not have anybody next week. That will be announced. The 11th, Jessica Hardison Adams will be my guest. August the 18th, Ash Hamilton will be my guest. August 25th, I do have as an open date. So if anybody would like to be on the show, I'm looking for somebody August. There is Hope, Paragon, and Ghost Hunt. So that is, I believe they do it on Friday. So I set them up on the 1st of September. For There is Hope, Paragon, and Ghost Hunt. I will be probably getting a video or at least some posters of them. I will be advertising their event during my quick commercial break I have in the middle of the show. On the 8th, Stephanie Smith. That I will be cranking up because East Coast guest. I will be, instead of having a 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern time, and on my time, 10 to midnight, we'll be cranking up a couple hours early. It will be 9 p.m. Eastern time to 11. Holly Mullins on September 15th. And we have rescheduled the show that was supposed to be tonight. Russ Stryver. We will be doing the double show that we should have done tonight due to his sickness on September 22nd. So I do have a couple of open dates. So if anybody wants to come in, they can message me on Facebook. That's the easiest place to reach me. And be glad to have you on the show. So now we're going to bring back Cindy Wells.
Oh, there I am.
There we are. I said right there at the end, you took your headset off too quick. I was going to say, if you want to give your dog some FaceTime, I'm open for it.
I don't know where he's at. I can't see him out there. It's dark. I have to wait till I get. So he'll scratch on the door if he wants in. So I just want to make sure my kitty cat didn't go outside. I don't know where he went. So he's probably back there sleeping with Dad.
That happens.
So one of the things that Russ and I always like doing is that's probably what you might mention, like these popular places that a lot of people go and stuff like that. Why we haven't been to them. The reason is because Russ and I like finding the unknown places that people have not been to, because that way we have the advantage of capturing the first evidence or whatever. And we look for these kind of places that may or may not be haunted, and we'll go in and investigate them. And if we don't get anything, we don't get anything. But if we do, then, it gives us a chance to share with people that have never been there, or they might be interested in going to investigate it, So I don't go to many of the popular places just because, one, they charge too much money. And two, because why would I go to some place that's been investigated? It's like Waverly Hills. They have been investigated to death. Everybody knows it's haunted. Why would you want to go there and investigate if you already know it's haunted? I mean, I don't know. That's just my opinion. I don't know. Maybe. So.
Well, they just want that experience that everybody else has had.
Yeah, but can you imagine?
Hills,
can you imagine how many people have been there? I mean, geez, it's crazy.
You know how much they charge, right?
Mm-hmm.
$1,000.
I do. Look, I can't even buy a car right now. I need money to buy a car, and I can't do that. I ain't spending $1,000 to go investigate something that's been investigated God knows how many times.
And our only car is down. We don't have the money to fix it, so we've been without a ride here, living in the woods.
Yeah,
and going to be this way because my wife started having some back issues at work and personal back in December, and she hasn't worked this year.
Wow.
She got a paycheck the very first of the year, so according to most people that counts. You know, if it's when you receive the check, not when you do the work. But the work she did was back in December, between Christmas and New Year's.
Oh wow!
And that was the last time she worked. Come to find out, the pain was caused by a back issue, and she had to have 4, 5, and 6. I don't know, 3, 4, and 5, or anyway, she had 3 vertebrae fused in her lower back. She was a former power lifter, so they did not have to put an iron bar or even any screws in it.
Right.
So she's recovering from that, and we're dealing with Social Security trying to get her, a little bit of money. Yeah. And until we get that, and they called her a couple of days ago. She's got a caseworker now, so it's working.
That's good.
But she said it could be December before she gets any money.
Wow.
I think she was admitting that she's pretty well going to be approved, but it may be December. It could be as late as December. It could be earlier. We could get money in September. We don't know.
So are you talking about disability?
Yes.
Okay.
Because she is thoroughly unable to work.
Right. Russ is on disability as well because he had 2 back surgeries from getting hurt on the job. And then in 2011, he got in a bad car wreck and fractured discs in his neck and in the middle of his back and his lower back. And so he has this one disc that looks like a wedge, And so the farther he goes along, the doctor said, well, I give you about 10 years and you're probably going to be in a wheelchair. Well, he doesn't accept that. So he just keeps going and he's in pain half the time. And then 2 years ago, he had a heart attack. So, it's hard getting older, and it's really hard if you got to live like on Social Security and disability, because he's got disability. I'm on Social Security. I retired because I retired early, so I only get half of what I would normally get.
Right.
So, which I think is crazy. I don't know why they do that. If you want to retire, let you retire, for heaven's sakes. But, that's the government. So
they make you work 2 or 3 years to get quite a bit of extra money.
Right. Exactly. So.
Because I got stuck the same way because I had the knee replaced on the right side, so I wasn't working anywhere in Chicago. Couldn't get any Social Security up there. Applied for it the first time within a month or 2 of getting our permanent address here, and they X-rayed it. So my left knee had next to no cartilage in it.
Ooh, ouch!
But the guy who made the X-ray did me a huge favor and caught a little bit of the right knee. Enough of it to show that was not a natural knee, that was a replacement.
Oh, wow.
So he said you're going to get this amount of money. You can't work.
No.
And we got approved very quickly, and I got the 62 retiree amount that like you're talking about. I got about half at most 2/3.
Mm-hmm.
So I started getting that at age 60, and then at 62 you got to file and return early. You don't get any money, but you got to file all the paperwork, so you officially retire early at 62.
Right.
And then of course at 65 I had to go back in and reapply for all the insurances because they want to put you on Medicare.
Right.
So I know what you're going through because I've been through it. Now I'm set, and time I get set for 6 months. The wife, Gail, has troubles, and now she's got to go through it at the same age I did.
Yep.
Filing for Social Security disability at 60.
What I always tell people is enjoy your youth, because when you get older, it's not that we as paranormal investigators want to give up doing what we enjoy, but the problem is other things come up, like what we're talking about, finance, financial situations that you cannot do anything about. It's just there. And so, I mean, Russ and I, once we start doing our traveling, our filming will probably change. It'll be more going in and doing interviews with people about their haunted locations, or going to paracons and sharing what they're like with people, that kind of thing, instead of actually doing the investigations, because Russ is not going to be able to. I mean, and I probably won't either. So we're getting to that point. I mean, probably another 5 years maybe, and we'll probably be retiring. But I want to get as much as I know out about what we know, and like we have these shows, but I don't know how many people you have watching on your shows, but it's hard to get people to watch when it's two old people,
Right.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, they don't want to hear, what we know, because they think they know it all already. So,
that's why I'm on so late.
For
East Coast, I had to move the show up because, and thank goodness WLFE allows me to do this, because apparently I'm one of their more watched shows. But and I'm also independent. I don't count on them doing something for me every week. I make my own banners. I couldn't make one with you tonight because I just didn't have the time.
It's okay. I do mine too.
At the last minute. Yeah, there's a program. What is it? Carvana? It's not Carvana. It's something similar to that word.
Canva.
You can be Canva. There you go. Thank you. I use them. I use it free side.
Yeah, I use Paizo. It's pretty cool. I like it a lot.
Okay.
If you go on my page, you'll see my banners and stuff. They're all made in Paizo. I really enjoy it. And I'm always doing my book. I do my own book covers, like if I do books. Yeah.
Send me a link to that. When you got the time, if you're on there, just put it on the Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
I know what the young people don't like us boomers on Facebook Messenger, because we're virtually taking over Facebook.
Yeah.
And that's why they're going other places. They don't want to be around old people. I mean,
well,
I'll feel the same way. If I was 15, 16 years old and I was on a social media platform, when your parents send you a friend request, it's time to change platforms.
Well, that's because we always tell them to grow up.
No, that's it.
Yeah. Anyway,
or make a comment, kind of like, oh, thank you. Kind of like we did earlier. Youth is wasted on the young.
It is.
Because you and I can do wonders and thunders with our brain in a 16-year-old body.
Oh, yeah. I think, well, see, I went through this whole paranormal kind of thing before I even knew what the paranormal was when I met Russ. I had been dealing with spirits all my life, so it wasn't a big deal to me. It was just like I had to do it kind of in a different way, because we wanted to kind of prove that there was an afterlife, that kind of thing. But as far as spirits go, I was already into it, so it just seemed natural to me. It wasn't like I was coming into it as a new person, like a lot of people are. I already knew what I was doing. I mean, but of course, I didn't know everything, but I had been around enough spirits to know some things, and that got me a basis to start on. But if you don't know anything about the paranormal, and you're only watching the TV shows to get your information, go to the library, read a book, go look up Hans Holzer's book, Ghosts. He gives you the basics right there, how to do this. And then now his daughter, I think, is doing something. I just read about her. I can't remember her name, but her last name is Holzer, and she's carrying on her father's work. So, now I don't know what a lot of people think about the Warrens' work. I respect the work that they did while they were here. I respect, what their family is still continuing to try to do. But I'm not a big demon kind of person. I don't know. I'm not religious, organized religious. I have my faith and I'm spiritual, and I believe in God very much so. He's with me all the time, and I know that. But as far as religion goes, I don't get it. I was religious when I was a kid because my parents were very religious, and we went to Baptist church. I was a Lutheran. I mean, went to several different kinds of churches, but they none of them made any sense to me because they were making out like God was this horrible being that would punish you if you did something wrong. And that's not the God I know. The God I know is loving and cares about his children and helps us when he can, but most of the time he wants us to do things on our own. That's why we're here, to learn. So
well, being old, they have a public pool here in Star City, and they have the classes in there so older people can go in there and do exercise.
Right.
Apparently trying to do aerobics in water actually is good for you. And the women have 2 classes 3 times a week. The men had 1 class 2 times a week because there was only 3 or 4 of us going. My wife has since started joining the men's class because there's no need just going to 2 different classes and having to drive one way 10 miles to the pool on the same day, but at 2 different times, and that's ridiculous. So they said, "Hey, if it's all right with the guys, it's all right with the city." And the guy said, "Of course, your wife can come in anytime she wants to. She's a nice person." They all knew her.
Right.
But one guy down there, he was taking a class on Bible study and goes to one of the bigger churches in town. I'm not naming names here. He said he is seriously wondering about his church because during the sermon, the preacher had locally got completely away from teaching about Jesus Christ and would only talk about how great a man Donald J. Trump is in church, talking about, I don't care how you, I'm not going to ask you how you feel about Trump. I'm not going to express my opinions. But when a preacher spends his time talking about a human being who has rarely gone to church and only worships money and power in his sermon, and that's about all he talks about, instead of talking about a loving God and his son Jesus Christ who died on the cross for everybody. Why aren't you talking about those 2 along with the Holy Ghost, all 3 of them, instead of a flawed human being?
Right.
And he said he's having some real issues with his church. And this is a deeply, deeply religious man here telling me that's never been to his church and never will. Because everybody knows I'm a ghost hunter because I did something stupid. We barely got settled down to the house, and I had an opportunity to go do a paranormal investigation in the county courthouse. We are Star City's county seat, and investigated that, and had about 15 people from the city in there.
Oh.
And that was over 6 years ago, and everybody still talks about it. And everybody said, "Well, oh, that's the guy that investigated the courthouse a few years ago."
Yeah.
So I'm not welcome in churches here.
So
because they say I talk to demons.
You know what, though? I have known some preachers who are actually investigators, and what they look at is that we're trying to help these spirits cross into heaven and keep them out of hell. But you don't want me to get into that subject because I'll make everybody mad at me. I'm not kidding, because from what I've learned from school, everything you want to know about the paranormal, anything you want to know about the metaphysical, spirituality, blah blah blah, I'm learning it. And it's made a big difference in my life to understand. And I'm not scientific by any means. I mean, I like watching scientific stuff. But as far as we're concerned as investigators, we are not scientists. We never will be. The way scientists would do what we do is it would have to be a repeated thing over and over and over with the same results and all that stuff. That's why what kills me is I see people saying, they're doing a scientific approach to the paranormal. No, you're not. You're doing a technological approach by using the equipment you use. That's it. And
if I was going to do a scientific approach and say Bachelor's Grove,
yes,
that would mean that every time I walk in Bachelor's Grove, I could say, "Hello, Libby," and she would answer me.
Exactly.
Every time.
Everything would be the same.
That never happened.
Right.
Sometimes she was there. Sometimes she was not. Sometimes she had the energy to talk. Sometimes she didn't. Mm-hmm. You can't use... I went to college and got my degrees in human resources management.
Okay.
And that has helped me in the paranormal a lot. My wife, now her degree is in research, where she does what you're talking about, where you can go in there and you mix this chemical A with chemical B, and this reaction happens.
Right.
And they can walk up to anybody on the planet and they say, okay, if I take chemical A and mix it with chemical B, this happens. And they would say, of course that happens. You mix A and B together. I don't care where you are or who you are. This is going to happen. That's the scientific method.
Right.
With ghosts, just like dealing with human beings. It's like going into work and expecting to talk to Bob and Robert every day when you first go in, and them say the same thing to you every day. It's not going to happen. You might can get it 2 out of 5 days.
Right.
One of them comes in grumpy and says some expletives to you instead of good morning. And maybe one of them doesn't show up. It's unpredictable. You don't know what you're going to get with human beings. You don't know what you're going to get with spirits.
That's why I say there's so many paranormal variables to investigating, to hauntings. And unless you're willing to do some experiments that we do in the paranormal to get a reaction, then you are not doing anything for yourself. You like for instance, I'm not going to go into detail, but I want to do an investigation where I sit down, because I communicate with spirits anyway. So I want to sit down on the floor. I want to have cameras all around me. I want to have certain things, certain objects that they can move or reacts to their being there or whatever. But I want to do a meditation where I'm communicating with them through the meditation. And see if I can get reactions from that on the equipment or whatever.
You said you know Greg Cross, right?
No, I don't know him.
He's a friend of Rob's, a friend of Dale Kazmarik's. What he does is something like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Except he goes a step further. He'll go in there and go into a meditation wearing a blindfold.
Yeah,
takes away one
I've
of his 5 senses and tries to concentrate and gets a little bit more communication that way. By the way, we're past midnight my time, so that means I've got to run this. I got to run this little video. I made it from Fangora, so
go for it.
Might want to hold the headsets away from your ears. That's how I go into OT. It's silly, it's corny, but it's fun and gets a little break away from the serious stuff. We will go as long as you want to go. I do not. WLFE has told me that they don't have another show coming up. Remember, they're New York State based, so
Right.
it's past 1:00 a.m. over there. They don't have any show after mine.
Okay.
So basically, I can go as long as I want to. I've only got a 2-hour spot, but they said there's not a show on after yours. If I had a show after mine, they'd put up with 5 minutes, and then I'd have to go.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm gonna get too tired here pretty soon. Plus, I still got to find my dog. I don't know where he's at. So, I'll tell you what, though. You know, I told you we have our own show. It's called The Grave Report, and what I want to do is put together a paranormal roundtable. I want to invite people to be on it. Dan is going to be on it. I have the list of people, but I'm still missing one person, and I want to invite you to be on it.
I would be honored.
Yeah, because I think that we need a variety of people from different locations. I've got a lady by the name of Mary Bethune coming on. She's the team that we're working with on Saturday to go back to the bridge. Very, very wonderful long-term investigator. That's what I'm looking for, is long-term investigators, because Dan's been in it a long time. You've been in it a long time. Mary's been in it a long time. And I think there's one other person. Who was it? My brain's not working right now, but yeah. But it'll be me and Russ and you people, you guys. And what we'll do is bring you all on. I can have up to, on my show, I can have up to, I think, 6 people or something. Maybe it's 10 people. I don't know, but we'll be all.
Yeah. Oh, it's StreamYard, right?
Yeah.
It's 10. You can have 10 people.
Okay.
Right. Look like the Brady Bunch, but you can have 10 people.
Well, that's okay, because whatever, you can always switch the
right,
views.
like I do just by clicking on the little logo on your picture down here.
Right.
I can throw me out, and you're on full screen now.
I hate that.
And just click it again, and I'm back here.
Right.
Well, somebody goes into a long story. What I do is click you back in where you're on full screen. Because there's no need me standing here going, oh, okay. Allows me to get a sleepy out of my eye or scratch my nose or something.
I could talk all night, but I got to get up early in the morning. So
I'm from Georgia, so I can talk all night. As far as I'm concerned, I can sit on a show and talk all day till tomorrow.
Well, the thing is, when you have a show, you have a show, we have a show, I can talk forever, but you got to, most of the guests that I have, they're kind of expecting to be on for an hour, maybe a little over. And then they're like, but preferably when you're talking about the paranormal, if you have somebody that's been on, that knows what they're doing, they've been through a lot of different investigations, that kind of thing. It's nice to be able to talk for a couple hours because there's so much you can talk about.
Mm-hmm. That's why I enjoy it. I have a good time with the show. You notice I'm not really shy. I can look at myself, look into the camera, look at you, pay attention to what you're saying and doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. I didn't know when I did my first show how it would go.
Right.
I did Dale Kazmarek was my first show. Of course, working with him was easy.
Mm-hmm.
An old friend. We've investigated together. That's why I scheduled him for the first show. But I have since found out that you got little butterflies at the start. But once that music kicks in and I kick on the live button, it's on, and I'm in my happy place.
Yeah, me too. I love talking to people, and that's why it's really nice when you get invited to these, because then people get to see you and say, "Who is that? I've never seen that person before," or "I've never heard their work before." And it's nice to give that person that opportunity, because there's a lot of really famous people out there that we've investigated too. Not investigated, but actually had on our show. Because we've had several shows over the years. And I tell you, we've had some pretty well-known people, but honestly, I'd rather have the people that people really don't know, because how are we ever going to learn about each other and work with each other unless we're willing to listen, you know?
So, exactly. Now, you were talking about that big meetup that you honored me by inviting me to.
Yes.
Send me when you get ready to do that, send me the details on Facebook Messenger.
Well, what I'm going to do actually is I need to invite you guys all to be in Messenger group thing conversation, so we can figure out a day and a date. You know, the days are easy. The dates, you know, everybody's got different work schedules and all that stuff. So it has to be when everybody can be there, you know. Right. And it doesn't matter what day it is to be, because it's my show. I can put it on whatever day I want it to, you know. So, but I want this. I mean, I actually started arranging a paranormal summit probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. And I stopped doing it. You want to know why I stopped? I changed my mind about doing it, because there was so many. I contacted people and they said, oh, sure, you know, blah, blah. All they wanted was what popularity it would give them about talking about the paranormal or whatever. People would see them, how exciting that was going to be, blah, blah. And I said, you know what, guys? I wrote them all. And I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this. You guys are only about what it is you want out of the paranormal, instead of what it is we need to do to discover more about the afterlife. Isn't that why we got it in the first place? You know, our curiosity peaked and we said, okay, I want to go hunt. I want to go seek out these spirits and see what we can discover from them, what we can learn from them about the afterlife. We already know they're there, obviously, but you know, what are we going to learn from them? And that's
what there's two things that's for sure. They are out there, as you say.
Yes.
Number two fact that we can't argue with is that sooner or later we'll be there.
Yes. And I'm on haunt people. I already decided that. I have some people I want to haunt. Not really haunt. I just want to go and say, hi, I'm here. It's real. You know? I love arguing with skeptics. Have our list.
Yeah. Oh, I love a skeptic on a tour. The one about the museum.
Yeah.
I got so much evidence on that when I had the pub surrounded by public people, that a skeptic went downstairs and told the people who was running the tour, he said, I walked in this door a skeptic, but I'm walking out a believer, because that guy you had upstairs, he said he was just on the tour just like everybody else. Yeah, but he did stuff. He said, yeah, he is an investigator. He bought the ticket.
Right.
And they said he changed my mind about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because I had one guy, the tour handed him a K2 meter.
Right.
And of course, amateur, he didn't know how to use it. He was holding it in front of him. We got on a car elevator. It was an old brewery. He was holding it right in front of him. And as long as he held it still in this one place, it lit up. And I mean, all but maybe it would go from having 2 lights up to full lights for a few seconds, and usually go back to, what is it, 4? I forget how many lights are on a K2 meter, 5 or 6. But it would light all but the top one, and would kind of go flip back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But it was constantly doing that. It wouldn't go off until he moved. He would move over a few feet and stop, and you go back to because there's kind of crowded. There was only enough places for everybody to stand and all the stuff they had stored there.
Right.
And I got on Echovox, and I was talking to Spirit. The interaction. I'm not going to go into too long of a story. We were in there for over an hour, and we had activity most of the hour.
Right.
But on this one, he kept complaining about the K2. He said, this has got to be a trick. He said, I bet it's your cell phone. I said, my cell phone's turned off. That's for calling a cab so I can go back to my hotel when this is over.
Right.
So he put it in my cell phone, nothing. Put it on me, nothing. Run up and down my body, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Stood there in front of me, between us, nothing. Stepped back by his fiance, lit right back up almost full.
Right.
So I said, okay, let's figure this out. And I said, spirits, who Who is standing? His name was Kevin. Who is standing in front of Kevin, making his K2 meter light up? And we had a name, I believe it was Ed, come several times. If it said something that they didn't know. So everybody was familiar with that name. And a female voice come on and said, Ed is. I said, wow, okay. I said, Ed, are you standing in front of Kevin making his K2 meter go off?
Right.
Ed said, yes.
Yeah.
Kevin had the only door behind it. It was a big sliding doors to let the car in and out, but also had a door, if human being enter and exit without having to open big doors. He started going out that door. Then he realized his fiance wasn't following him. And the fact that he had a huge room that they rented out for weddings and receptions, whatever.
Right.
No lights were on. He did not have a flashlight. And he was going to have to run through about 30, 40 yards, take a hard right turn, run another 20, 25 yards, and pitch darkness in a strange room where there were some chairs and other things sitting around, hit a stairway that was only lit by the exit light, run down those dark stairs, and hopefully the people who welcomed us into the tour were still downstairs just twiddling their thumbs or whatever.
Oh, wow.
That's what I just said went through his mind. He decided, I'm going to close the door. I'm not running out there into a dark room.
Yeah. See, that's the thing.
The skeptic in the group just said, okay, that's it. I'm a believer.
Yeah. We've had so many people come up and say, oh, how can you guys do this? It's not real, blah, 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 And Russ and I'll say, I'll tell you what, you don't believe in what we do. Why don't you come on an investigation with us and then make up your mind? Choose what you want,
Exactly.
Whatever.
Exactly.
And so, most of the answers were, oh, I can't do that. Well, why not?
Exactly.
And I said, we usually say, well, why not? And they say, well, I'm working that next day, or I can't because I have this and this, whatever. And we're like, oh, okay. It's not because you're scared, right? No, I'm not scared. There's nothing to be scared of, right? No. Okay.
I've invited, when I was in Chicago, I'd invited him out to Bachelor's Grove. I said, I'll take you to Bachelor's Grove. I said, the odds are there's about a 40% chance we'll get something.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a 60% chance we won't get a thing.
Right.
He said, but you can come down there and you can at least see what I do to try.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I can't guarantee anything. No, right. And I got the same response as you just said. I'm not going to repeat them. No, I can't do that. One skeptic at Ethel's party had a group wanted to come in there, and the bar opened up to groups that just want to give them a little bit of money. And what they do, they'd get enough money to pay the bartender to be there, and she'd serve us free Coke all night long. Not a bad deal. For the money, everybody picked up, I think it was $20 or $25 each. They got they could order pizza from a pizza place just 3 or 4 doors down and across the street. Good pizza. So I'd say, get your orders up, get your money up. We'll go get pizzas for everybody. And they, the people there would pay for them, but I mean, the bartender would send somebody to go get them. Usually me, since I was a tour guide. Turn everybody loose and say, okay, I go get pizzas for everybody. And it was a good time. I mean, a haunted location for about $25.
Yeah.
Free Coke all night long. And then if you wanted alcohol drinks at 5 o'clock in the morning when we stopped, she would sell you alcoholic drinks 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And if you wasn't driving, have at it. But she had you've seen these, they don't even sell them anymore. The cheap ghost meters look like a cell phone meter, except they didn't have the attachment to it and was see-through.
Mm-hmm.
You could buy them for $10 several years ago. She had one of those, and it was a couple of days before Halloween, and they had a Halloween thing on the little stage with a skeleton in it, plastic skeleton.
Right.
Dressed up as a Halloween decoration. So it was cool as hell, and fantastic to do as a trigger object during a paranormal investigation. She had that meter on the skeleton, and it started blinking and wouldn't stop.
Right.
No matter what she said, it wouldn't stop, and she couldn't get any rhyme or reason. And the skeptic finally come up in there and pointed to it, just a few feet from it, is that if you can sit there and make that ghost meter, because that's what it was called, stop flashing on command, and then get it back started on command, I'll be a believer in anything you say as far as ghosts goes.
Wow.
So he turned around, started going to the bar.
Mm-hmm.
He had a Coke sitting. He was just sitting at the bar stool at the bar, watching everything. And the lady she was the head of the team said, "Spirits, please step away from my meter. Don't trigger the meter. Let it go quiet.
Right.
And make it stop flashing." Within seconds, it stopped flashing. It's been flashing about 30 to 40 minutes nonstop now. On command, within a couple of seconds, it went off. And he called her name. The guy hadn't even gotten to the bar yet. He said it stopped flashing. Yeah, okay. Got to his seat, took a sip of his Coke, and said, "Spirits, play with the meter as you will. Turn it back on." Within a couple of seconds, it popped back on just like it'd been doing for the last 30, 40 minutes.
I love proving things like that. You know, people always believe that ghosts are stuck inside buildings. Why they believe that, I don't know. But recently, a couple years ago, in a row, and during Halloween time, Russ and I did street investigations to prove to people that ghosts are not just necessarily located inside buildings, that they're also on the streets. So what we did was we took people and we investigated concrete. It's not a real long main street. It's, not very big at all, but we took them down the street and we got EVPs, we got dowsing rod session interaction, we got some photos that were different, that were weird, videos that were really cool. And so we were like, and people were like coming that didn't really, they said, "Well, why are we doing a street investigation? Should we be inside a building?" I said, "Well, let's see what happens while we're on the street." And people were getting all kinds of interactions. They were seeing things that I knew where all these buildings in concrete are haunted. So every single one, through the windows, you could see something, a shadow person or a light coming on that shouldn't be on, that kind of thing. And so this year we're doing a different town. We're going to be doing a place called, I stepped on something, a place called Cedar Woolley. It's down about 20 minutes away from where we live, but it's got a lot more buildings, a lot more initial pioneer kind of history, all that. And so we're going to take people and do the same thing, street investigations, and charge them $15 a piece and see how we do. I just guarantee that there's activity. I mean, you got to understand that the area we live in is kind of depressed, so you can't charge too much. You can't even charge like $30, But if a family like I told people, nobody under the age of 16, because then you start getting into complicated attachment, maybe, kind of thing, and wouldn't know how to deal with it. So, yeah, I'm going to bless people before they get started. I don't want no getting a phone call saying, "Hey, I got an attachment from that investigation." Well, that happens. What are you going to do? But, let me come over or whatever, and I will cleanse your house and cleanse you, and it'll be fine. But, yeah. The street investigation, I have heard for years people saying, "Oh, this place is haunted and that place is haunted," but they never talk about the streets. They never talk about how much interaction you get with spirits just by walking down the street. They just don't realize it.
I tell you one place in Chicago that you could prove your statement.
Mm-hmm.
You know a little bit about the history of Chicago, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Look up, if you don't know, look up the Eastland.
The what?
Eastland.
Eastland. Okay.
The SS Eastland. It's a ship.
Okay.
It's spelled just like it says, East and Land. East
Right.
Land.
I love doing ships. Love doing ships.
A couple of years after the Titanic, they in the Titanic inadvertently kind of caused the Eastland disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Because they got really tough, really fast on having enough rowboats for everybody.
Right.
The Eastland was a lake steamer on Lake Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
It had a little flaw. Everybody, the Navy got it later, and they said it handled fine. And it was a nice handling ship, but was built about the beam about 3 feet too narrow for its length.
Okay.
There's 2 or 3 ships built like that. In the ocean, they would have probably gone over real quick. They were to be seen on Lake Michigan, and only during kind of fairer weather. But when they put the extra rowboats on them because of the Titanic, the only place they could put them was on the top deck.
Right.
And the Eastland had another issue. Every disaster, you got 4 or 5 issues. You don't have one issue is going to crash a plane. One issue is not going to sink a ship. We have too many safeguards for that.
Right.
It takes 4 or 5 issues, and that sinks your ship. That crashes your plane.
Right.
The second issue, they had 2 ballast pumps. One of them wasn't working. It was taken apart to be rebuilt. So they only had 1 bilge pump working. And if you know anything about ships, a ship is required to have, we're not talking about a couple of buckets. We're talking about several tons of water in the keel. The very bottom part of the ship has got keel tanks.
Right.
You pump water in those, and that's why you see the little pipe running water out the side of a ship, because you're constantly pumping water in and out of here, depending on the balance of the boat, ship, whatever you're talking about. And to make it, they had notoriously had pumped water out of the bilge tanks to put more people on the Eastland. So they followed the same procedure here. They pump water out of the bilge tanks so they could way, way, way overload the ship. So they overloaded it. Issue 1. They emptied the bilge tank, so supposedly it would sink down as long as most people stayed on the bottom deck. It would be fine. It would hold it upright. The problem was they were still at the dock. They were still trying to load up. They were just about finished loading up, and everybody was on one side of the boat, and she started leaning. So they got everybody to switch sides of the boat. They got it straightened out, but then it started leaning again because people are going to move around on your boat.
Right.
It leaned so far that they could not get to the other side because all of a sudden you're trying to walk up a bare wall, and human beings aren't designed to walk up a bare wall.
Like this.
Yeah. It had a list on it and could not recover from the list. It went over.
Oh, wow.
The number of people killed was right at eerily like the Titanic. As far as number of people got killed. But this time was more tragic because in the Titanic, about 85 to 90%, some people say almost 95% of the people killed were crew, not passengers. Most of the passengers got off the Titanic. On the Eastland, you only had a crew of 10 or 15 on the ship.
Okay.
So by far, it was passengers. Men, women, a whole bunch of children. I think it was 5 families got totally wiped out.
Wow.
They had to find out who it was and wait till cousins, aunts, uncles, whoever would contact them to come pick up the bodies and bury them in cemeteries because there was nobody left in the family. It totally wiped out the whole family. It was a tour from Western Electric that had rented 2 or 3 ships to go across the lake for a picnic. So they were all dressed in their fancy clothes. So you know, in the 19 teens, women had on big bell dresses.
They were heavy too.
Oh yeah, and when they got wet, they went right to the bottom. The water was only about 20 some odd feet deep. But when you weight it down like that, you go straight to the bottom. And unless you're extremely good, extremely strong swimmer, you are not going to make it back to the surface.
That's like military guys in World War II when they were landing on the beaches. Those guys would come off those, what do they call them?
The landing craft, yeah.
Yeah, troop carriers, whatever,
yeah.
And they would step off there if the water was too deep because they had so much equipment on them.
We lost, during Normandy invasion, we lost hundreds of people on that total landing. To that exact thing. And that's what happened here in the Eastland. This was in the Chicago River. They were not even, the dock, they hadn't even left the dock. They were still right there on the dock. Man. Hadn't even gotten into Lake Michigan, not even close to Lake Michigan. They were in the center of downtown Chicago. That's what happened. That's the thing. The Titanic happened out 3/4 of the trip to 2/3, whatever, between London and New York. Mm. This disaster happened in the center of downtown Chicago.
Crazy, huh?
And you can go there to this day, and you can feel the heaviness. Yeah. And over the traffic noise, it's best to go down there on Saturday or Sunday morning. You can hear screams. You can contact some people. Mm-hmm. You can hear voices about that panic time. And by the way, this is across the river from where Oprah, now she has since sold it, but this is where her studio used to be. Oh. When people went down there to get all their free cars, you got a car, you got a car, you got a car, that was held in her studios right across the street from the Eastland. And Oprah would not let any paranormal investigator in there. People tried. But she admitted, this place is haunted and I don't come in here alone at night.
I don't blame her. Have you ever heard of the USS Hornet?
The aircraft carrier? Yeah, it had a bad fire on it, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, or something. I don't know. But it was the aircraft carrier that used to go pick up the Apollo mission.
Right.
Things. Okay.
I think it was mostly Mercury and Gemini.
Right.
Back in the 60s.
It's in, oh my God. It's in California. It's off Alameda, California. And we went on that ship.
Alameda, I believe.
Alameda, yeah. And we went, Russ and I and a couple friends went on there. And we're just touring the boat. Actually, just kind of touring the boat. Of course, being investigators, we always have our equipment, our little equipment.
Of course.
And so Russ was he was away from me. He had walked away. He was using the camcorder to just kind of film, the inside. There's only certain levels that allow you to walk around on, because the lower levels are kind of dangerous, I guess, because it's dark and there's a lot of pipes and stuff down there. But Russ is walking around and he goes down this one hall. And if you look at the video, there is no speakers above his head or anywhere around his head. But all of a sudden, this excuse me, this song starts playing. And it's like from the 1940s, Andrews Sisters kind of, what was that? I'm trying to think of one of the songs that they sang, Boys in Company B or something like that. And
the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boys from Company B. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, well,
I actually got that out this late at night.
it was like that kind of music, and it started playing, and Russ didn't even hear it. Because I know him. If he would have heard that, he would have said, "Oh wow, where's that song coming from?" He didn't even hear it until we played it back, and he was watching it too, and he goes, "I swear to you, that song was not playing when I was walking around down there." And then he was getting EVPs in the bunk areas, and it was crazy haunted. We were getting thank you for coming. We were getting I wish stay here and talk to us, that kind of thing. It was pretty cool. If you ever get a chance to go out there. Yeah.
Study the history of the Hornet. It's had a bad history.
Yes.
It's a tough old bird of a carrier.
Mm-hmm.
You've had a lot of deaths on board for a lot of different reasons. So I have no doubt that what you're saying is absolutely true.
Yeah.
It's like the Eastland. There's just too many deaths there to occur not to be active.
Well, yeah,
and another.
That
yeah.
we went to while we were in California that year. We went to the Winchester House. Very cool place, by the way. We didn't get to. We took the flashlight. No. Yeah, we took the flashlight tour, but they wouldn't let you really take any photos and stuff because of all the antiques in there, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But now they let people sleep there. It's like a bed and breakfast kind of thing going on. That is that would creepy place. That is a very creepy place.
Can you imagine your husband and my wife getting there as two couples, spending the night in that place? You know, you and I'd be up all night. Our spouses would be out cold, kind of like they both are now. I think you said your husband went to bed sleeping with the cat. My wife is probably back in the back sleeping with our ghost cat.
Right. Oh, you have
we
a
have a ghost cat here. Yes, we do.
Yeah, we had a ghost dog in our house. It was ours. Her name was Shiloh, and she got jaw cancer, and it's what they call rubber. It's what they call rubber jaw or something. That's what the vet said. Anyway, and it got her bad, and so we had her put down because I didn't want to see her suffer. She was just having a hell of a time, and so we had her put down. And that night, Russ was sitting in his recliner like I always did. And Shiloh used to bump the chair when she'd go around the back of the chair and lay down behind the chair. And that night he was sitting there and the chair kind of bumped, and he saw her sitting right next to him, and he said it was so real that he went to reach out and touch her. And I remember that, and I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I swear I just saw Shiloh. She was right here." I said, "Of course, she was coming just to tell us goodbye." You know, she went across that Rainbow Bridge, you know, and she's over there running in the fields and whatever else, you know. So, yeah.
Ours
cool stuff.
Was her idea heaven was here. And she's still here and probably will always be here.
Sure. Until you go or your wife goes, because then she'll go with you. Yeah. Yeah. I love animals.
The wife and I are planning on. We have no kids. We never had kids. She was my second marriage. She was 39. She got married, and she said she'd never have a kid after 40, and there was no way we could conceive a child in time for her not to hit 40. Right. And I lived a hard life or a fun life, depending on how you look at it. And I'd had a vasectomy for years, so I was a perfect guy for her. If she didn't want to have kids, marry a guy with a vasectomy. It's kind of hard. And so we never had kids and grandkids. So we don't even have anybody to leave this house to.
Right.
So I'm not sure what we're going to do with that. We're going to figure something, you know, hopefully we got 20, 25 more years in each one of us. And we'll table that discussion for when the first one's already gone and the second one's sitting there. Okay, who am I going to leave the house to? I guess that person will figure it out.
Yeah, I know that's me. I have really nothing to leave I have 3 granddaughters and I have a daughter. Oh. And Russ has got a daughter and he's got 2 grandchildren from her. But the only problem is none of them are talking to us. And that's because they got together and started developing these nasty little lies about us, and that weren't true, of course. And
wow.
Now we have nobody to leave anything to anyway. So
wow. Yeah. I've heard horror stories like that time after time. Mm-hmm. So Gail and I just say we don't have that big a disadvantage. The only disadvantage I've got is I've got to cut the grass myself, and if I had a 15-year-old kid, he'd cut the grass. Maybe. Yeah,
Russ cuts grass.
A lot of yelling. Yeah. But anyway, we're probably going to be both cremated and probably dumped on the grounds here because we like it here. We want to stay here. So,
have you ever heard of natural burials?
Yes, I have. That's a possibility too.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't know how much money we're going to have now. With naturals, we're cheaper for people to do.
It's kind of like a cremation. Yeah, it's cheaper than
having
getting buried.
Yeah. Plus, we'd have to go buy a plot. We have to buy the funeral. Nobody's going to be at our funerals. We've only got a couple of friends in this town. So why pay thousands of dollars to a funeral parlor for one person to show up?
Right.
Just get cremated and have the attorney or whoever gets the house to spread our ashes back there, and we'll watch whoever takes over the house. If they spread our ashes back, we'll watch their back.
There you go. You know,
hey, you left the gas on the stove on. Cut it off before you blow the place up.
Have you ever? People thought I was crazy because I said, "Have you ever investigated a natural cemetery, natural burial cemetery?" And they said, "Natural burial cemetery? What is that?" You know, if you go on my Facebook, on our YouTube channel, the American Ghost Hunters, SJ and Russ, you go on that. Yeah, it's one of those links there. And if you go on there, you'll see a video. I think there's a video on there about a place we went that they have a natural burial area. It's amazing. They grow trees from you. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. That actually came from a lot of people started hearing about that, learning about it, reading the Doom books, not the movies. They didn't cover it. But if you remember, if you've ever read the Doom books,
I think I know
who the Bene Gesserit are in that book. They are they call it. Some people call them witches because they could manipulate your mind, but they train their bodies in extreme martial arts. Talking about a girl with they weren't massive, but they were like gymnasts. You could tell they had muscles, but they're 5'8" and 115 pounds, and they could manipulate their hands in such a way. But that's how they got buried. They were in touch with nature, which is again going back to why they were called witches. And what they do, they dig a hole, put the body in upright where there was feet first.
Right.
They wouldn't build a long body to lay the person down. They'd bury the person upright, cover it with dirt up to over the head, and then plant a small tree on top of the spot, and then put a marker there that this tree is where this person is buried. And instead of having a stone gravestone there, you would simply have a marker. This is so-and-so's tree. Right.
Well, the one up here in Bellingham, if you want, you can look up the video, but what it is they take you you're wrapped in a cloth, like a white cloth. You have they put flowers on you and stuff. And they wheel you out there on a cart. And the family's there and whatever. And then they bury you, and then I think you're just laid like normal. But they put a rock, like a big rock, where you're buried, and your name and your dates and all that around that rock. And then there's a tree plant, like you said, there's a tree planted or something. I don't know how they do it. There's different ways that they do it now. They put you in a seed pod, and your body disintegrates, obviously, and then those chemicals and minerals in your body goes up and sprouts that tree, and it grows.
Right.
Yeah. So you're basically part of the tree. The title on the video is, "Are they growing haunted forests?" I mean, because we went out there. Think about it. I mean, we went out there and we were doing EVP sessions, and we were getting a lot. And we asked them if they're happy. Oh, absolutely, kind of thing. And yeah, it was great. So, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Haunted forest.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going to become of it. We're out here. Whoever takes care of us, we'll probably be here forever, and that suits me. This is an interesting area. I've got Cane Creek is a long creek coming from up there past Pine Bluff up toward Little Rock. It's a long creek. It's where it starts. And it ends here, about 2 miles. Let's see. Put my hand up there that way.
Okay.
And it flows into what they did. They diked up a low area, and where the creek was flowing, and met the bayou, the Bartholomew Bayou. So they diked up the low spot, and of course the area flooded into a fishing lake that they've got. It's the Cane Creek State Park, and you can go down there. They've got several docks. They got boats you can rent, so you can go paddling around out there. They don't allow you to have anything larger than a 35 horse motor on your boat if you put your own boat in, and you can go down to the mouth of the Cane Creek where it flows into the lake. You can go to the mouth of where the Bartholomew flows into the lake, and to its exit where it flows. Everything flows into the bayou, keeps it from flooding the dikes.
Right.
But that Cane Creek was used as a highway by the Native Americans and was actually used as trading by the early French explorers of the area, along with the bayou. And there were steamships, small ones, not great big tour thing like they've got now, like on the Mississippi. Smaller ones, because you are talking about a bayou. The smaller steamships sailed up and down it until about 1913. So I live in a very interesting area where 110, 120 years ago, I had steamships coming within a half mile of the house. And if you go back 200 or 300 years, talking about an extensive area right here in the middle of the Mississippian culture, where they were doing all kinds of trade before white men got here.
Right.
Very interesting area. I've also got mounds, Indian mounds. There's 2 sets of mounds here in Arkansas, and 2 or 3 more down in Louisiana, including Poverty Point. If you want to delve into the history, read Poverty Point. I'm going to do some reading on the internet. It's plenty of it. It's spelled just like poverty, of being poor, but it was just the name of there was a huge, back in the slave days, plantation there, and they called it Poverty Point. They don't know what the Native Americans called it, because they've been dead and gone so long. They apparently did not have much of a written language, because they had never found any evidence of written language. But they built a huge mound that you can today. They built steps up. You can go stand on top of the mound and investigate the whole place. And they had what looked like a map of the area. They had kind of hills, and I'm talking about a hill just a foot or 2 high, that looked like, were built in a semicircle. It looked like a Roman Colosseum amphitheater. Because the Colosseum was nothing but 2 amphitheaters put together.
Right.
All their stadiums were just two amphitheaters smacked together. It looks like an amphitheater. The theory is that these people who had never built a place to live built these places to live in. They were awful close together. And why do you make your dwellings in a semicircle? Well, where if you spit out one of your windows, you're going to hit your neighbor in the face while he's eating dinner. Another theory, a guy came up and was trying to prove this, that and link it with about 150, 160 tons of copper, which is the richest, most pure copper ore in the world, is up around Lake Superior. Well, it's now Lake Superior. Back then, all the 5 of the Great Lakes were one lake. They had a name. They have a name for it during that time, but it was all one lake. And you could, and the Mississippi, instead of having to go up the Illinois and go through a short canal, they had to dig in there about 3-4 mile long canal to get to Lake Michigan. Flowed right into that big lake. And there was a group of people, the Minoans from Crete,
Probably stop.
2,500 years ago. His theory sailed across the Atlantic, it met the Mississippi, and said, "This is a great river," and noticed that some of the Native Americans had copper ornamentation. They said, "Where did you get this copper?" So they told them the tribe up north. So they're the ones that taught the Egyptians how to sail up and down the Nile. And you wonder, how do you take a small sailing ship and sail against the current? When you have, due to our seasons, winds blow in different directions. If you catch the season right, you can sail up the Mississippi against the current, and you can sail down the Nile. Because remember, the Nile is one of the few rivers in the world that flows north.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd figured that out. They sailed to that big lake, testing a few areas, and found this ultra pure copper ore loaded into barges. And when, of course, the winds died down, they'd float it down the Mississippi to Poverty Point. They had a slope dug there that's still there, you can see, for trade, and unload their copper ore there and smelt it in smelters. Those builders were not homes. They were smelting ovens.
I've seen those kind of things. We have them here.
But the other reason this guy come up with this theory is because they found, separate from him, this is somebody else that did this. They found a ship off the Egypt in the Mediterranean.
Stop.
Goodness. He just wants to talk on air.
No, he probably hears something outside.
Okay. But they found a sunken ship from over 2,000 years ago that was loaded with copper and tin.
Oh, nice.
And if you remember I don't know if you ever took metallurgy in school or not, but you know what happens when you melt copper and tin and mix together at a 4-to-1 ratio? It's not a mixed drink. It's bronze.
Oh, okay.
It's bronze.
All right. That makes sense.
That's how you make bronze. To make brass, you mix it with zinc.
Okay.
You mix copper with tin, you come up with bronze. Got to be careful, 4-to-1 ratio.
Right.
And they found this ship loaded with big ingots, tons of ingots of tin and copper. They traced the copper metallurgically, through chemical means, and they found out that this was so pure that it could only come from one place on the entire planet Earth, and that's Lake Superior.
Oh, wow.
How did a ship who had been tested to have been sitting on the bottom of the Eastern Mediterranean, off the coast of the Israel-Syria area, have 2 or 3 tons of ingots, because it was already been processed into ingots, of Lake Superior copper? How is that even possible?
That would be weird.
And that's his own theory, that Poverty Point was somebody where the Cretes had sailed over and were getting copper, North American copper, over about 2,500 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And creating the Bronze Age.
Okay.
The Bronze Age ended when a volcano on Santorini blew up. First, it erupted and killed most of the people on that island, and then exploded a day or two later, creating probably 100-foot, anywhere from 70 to 100-foot tidal wave that smashed into Crete, flooding up through, except the highest areas of Crete, destroying any habitation there. And they can prove this by studying where the waterline was. And they eliminated the Minoans as a civilization. most of their fleet was destroyed because most people don't think about tidal wave hit an island, that's the end of it. No, it goes all the way around the island.
Right.
I think the far side got hit with about a 50-foot tidal wave. Any ships out in the ocean or any bays hiding from the volcano would have been destroyed. They still had thousands of people there, but thousands of people does not make a civilization. And all their power was gone because their power was naval, and they didn't have a rowboat. So the Greeks went over and took over that island and held it for many years until the Nazis took it away from them. But there's another name for the Minoans. You can't pick it up. Island destroyed, underwater. Crete, there are other islands destroyed. A lot of it underwater. What civilization got put underwater?
Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I believe in Atlantis. I have no doubt.
Could Poverty Point be a part of Atlantis? And I'm the only person who's ever investigated as a paranormal investigator.
That's cool. Yeah, maybe.
That was very cool. They've in one of the short mounds, some of the people that own the plantation Poverty Point are buried there, including one of the ladies who was married to the primary owner. And there's 2 graves there, both women, and there's rumored to be 6 graves there. And I was sitting there trying to talk to her, and you know how it is. A spirit's never talked to a paranormal investigator before. It's hard to get them to open up. It takes a bit.
Yeah, because a lot of them don't know how quite to speak again.
Right. And she didn't. She finally learned how to speak and was finally, okay, this is a human being talking to me. What's going on? And they told me they had a great relationship with the Native Americans, and some of them were watching because I could feel them in the woods. Watching from the area. But then, and I got this on record. I had the camera on and had to close to the speaker. And all of a sudden I have a male voice says, "You're standing on my grave."
Oh, geez, that's embarrassing. You know.
Well, her husband was rumored to be one of the other 4 people that doesn't have a gravestone there. And what I'm doing, I was standing beside her grave, and her husband apparently is buried right beside her, and he come in there clear as a bell. "You are standing on my grave."
That is freaky, huh?
That's cool, I apologized and backed off. Immediately.
Sure.
And nothing else, bad occurred, and he let her do all the talking because I was talking to her. That's the only thing he spoke to me about. I said he didn't like where I was standing.
Answer me a question. Why is it that investigators seem to think that they have to go to certain kinds of places like old asylums or schools or poorhouses or whatever, and they don't think about all these other cool places like what you were just talking about to even investigate?
I don't know, because I love investigating these other places.
Me too.
Because there's no telling how many people died there. You had the Native Americans that were there for years. If indeed the Minoans came there and did their copper smelting there, that's an incredible amount of activity for a while.
Right.
Oh, one other thing about the theory of Atlantis, there's an Indian tribe, I forget the name of them right now, that their ancestors lived on the edge of this big lake.
Right.
They are still the best Native American tribe in math.
Really?
They start checking out some of the Indian tribes there, and they checked out most of them across North America. And there was one group that were head and shoulders over all of the Native American tribes as far as mathematics go. And then they checked their DNA. And every member of the tribe they checked the DNA had Southern Europeans DNA in there.
Interesting.
So did Crete creek get destroyed and leave a lot of people who were over here in North America that are in charge of their mining operations up around what is now Lake Superior and what is now northeastern Louisiana. And those people became stranded here because all of a sudden the ships going back and forth from Crete to the New Orleans area or and further up the river all of a sudden stop because Santorini exploded and destroyed their entire civilization. It'd be like if the whole United States sucked into the ground. What does our foreign interest do? I mean, we got a lot more interest going on. Of course, we got 1,000 times the population of Crete.
Mm-hmm.
But the United States was just erased from the face of the earth. What about the tourists in Europe? What about our ships? Unless we lost our whole Navy because we called them back to the United States, we still got carriers, we got destroyers, and we still got bases overseas. What about all the Americans that are living in the Philippines, visiting Thailand, on business in Egypt? What happens to them? They basically, if they've got any kind of ties, they may be stuck there. Because what happens if there was all of a sudden no more airplanes, and they could get on a ship? Well, we'd take you back to the United States if it existed, but there's nothing there. There's a hole in the ground.
Right.
What are you going to do? You're going wherever you are. You're just going to live your life out there. So is this what happened to northeast Louisiana and up there around for that Indian tribe up around Lake Superior?
Right. Yeah, I've never been up there by the Great Lakes, but I've always wanted to see it. I've never been there, but
it's a fantastic area. Go there if you can. Put that on your bucket list. Let's add that to it.
Yeah. Well,
to go in there and visit our good buddies up there and maybe investigate with them and at least go in there and see some of the Great Lakes and some of Chicago and maybe further up.
Right. Yeah, Russ and I like going a lot of places because if you haven't seen it, that's what I understand about some people. They just stay in one place all their life. They never go anywhere else. They don't go out. They don't really vacation.
Mm-hmm.
They just kind of stay in their life. They don't. Oh my God, that would drive me nuts.
I have a friend that called me. Funny you brought that up. A couple of years ago, called me on the phone, asked me if I was still married. He'd gotten a divorce. Mm-hmm. And he was lonely because he was at home by himself and wanted to know if I needed to have some place to go crash or move into. Mm-hmm. Basically, he wanted a roommate. He's got 6 acres in Harris County, Georgia. And he's also got 16 cars that all run. He's kept most of his cars when he was a kid. He only sold 2 or 3 cars, much to his regret, actually. But most of his cars he had in life, he's kept. So basically, I was offered to move into his 3 or 4 bedroom home. He used to work for Pratt Whitney, so he's not rich, but he's got money for a working man.
Right.
And I would have had to bring a car. All I got to do is bring my luggage, move into one of his bedrooms, and what car do I want to drive?
Right.
But I don't want to live with a guy I'm happily married, so that kind of ended that conversation.
Right.
But he has never his father's family was from Alabama, about 25 miles the other side of the Chattahoochee from Georgia. He lived in that area, Muskogee and Harris County, adjacent counties, all his life. And to my knowledge, he only went on vacation to Florida once. And I know that for a fact because I went with him. He was not married at the time. And me, him, and another friend of ours went down and toured most of the state of Florida. And that, to my knowledge, that's the only real vacation he ever took. And I couldn't like that.
I couldn't do that.
I've lived in Florida a couple of times. I've lived in Alabama. I've lived in Georgia at several different addresses. I've lived, 14 and a half years in Chicago. And now I'm 6 years plus down here in Arkansas.
Yep. Russ and I lived in Washington. We've lived in Montana. We lived in North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Illinois. Where else? Several places. But off the top of your head, you can never remember every place you've ever been. I've been to almost every. Oh, I lived in Alaska when I was a kid.
Wow.
Yeah.
My wife, that's kind of on my wife's bucket list. Is a cruise ship over there in your part of the country, and go up there to see Alaska.
They say it's a really nice cruise, but I've never been on it. But you get to see the whales and all that stuff. That's my thing. I love nature. So I mean, Washington. If you ever get a chance to come to Washington, you should. It's probably one of the most beautiful states I've ever been through. Ever lived in, and it's just, at least in the western part. The eastern part's pretty, but the western part is beautiful. You got trees that are so big that, you see historical pictures of the circumference of the tree itself at the bottom is like 10 feet wide. It's huge. And we still got those old growth trees here. If they stop cutting them down, you'd be happier about that. But what are you gonna do? But it's really pretty there, and we've got volcanoes here that are just, the mountains are gorgeous. We have so many waterfalls and everything else. The camping is awesome here. We got a lot of bears though this year for some reason. I don't know what them bears have been up to, but they've been busy making babies, because we had a bear in our backyard not too long ago. It was pretty creepy.
Yeah. We had a bear in Star City for about last month in June. We had a bear here in Star City. The last sighting was about half mile or less from our house.
Yeah, ours
so
was right
I got where if I was going to walk around the yard very much, I'll do it. I kind of carry at least my pistol with me with a rat shot in case I run into a rattler. Right. But for a while, I didn't want to walk back outside and spend a whole lot of time outside at all without the shotgun being with me with shot in it, just in case I run into a bear. I wanted to be able to at least knock him down and let me get away from there.
Right. Well, they trapped the bear. It was like no more than a couple of weeks ago. They trapped him over across that way, across behind the neighbor's house, and took him up into the mountains and let him loose. That they try not to kill him, because this was a young bear. He just was looking for food, and that's the problem. Is people feed him, and they shouldn't, because then that bear's going to remember that, and he's going to keep coming back. And one day he's going to run into your dog or your cat or whatever and have a meal, or your kid. Yeah,
I was about to say, he takes your dog or your cat, and he comes back. There's no more dog, no more cat, but your 5-year-old's out there on the swing set.
Exactly. Then it's going to munch down. It don't. Yeah. Bears are nothing to play with. You do not mess with a bear, especially a mama bear.
Did you hear what happened in Russia? There's a peninsula over there in Russia. It's actually north of Japan.
Okay.
And these are grizzlies. In fact, the largest grizzlies on Earth. And it's kind of a cold up there. If you get north of Japan, in fact, Japan's northernmost island is split between themselves and Russia back to World War II. It was up. There's a peninsula right across from it, and they had a tourist flight. They held by helicopter, and for some reason the helicopter crashed. And more than likely, the crash killed the people that was on the helicopter. But when they finally found the helicopter, there were no remains. They found shoes and items where they'd been drugged and completely eaten by bears. So you're talking about several people in a helicopter, hopefully were killed by the crash. So they weren't sit there with their leg or something caught in a helicopter or slowly bleeding out or whatever, or maybe with a broken leg or something and just couldn't get out of there. and being drug out alive. Hopefully that didn't happen, but they have no proof of it one way or the other.
Well, they've been reintroducing them into the Northwest again. They reintroduced wolves up here because they got really almost extinct over here because people were killing them and stuff. But they reintroduced them. Now they're getting more population again, which is good,
right?
Because it keeps the elk population down and stuff. Mm-hmm. And they reintroduced grizzlies, but I'm trying to remember where they did that. I think they did like a couple here. They put a couple over in Montana, like a male and a female kind of situation. And now we don't have grizzlies here, but we have cougars. Bad. And that's scary because you're walking down a path and turn around. There's a freaking cougar walking behind you, waiting to make you into a meal. So you have to be really cautious up here where you have to have your bear spray with you, but a lot of times it doesn't affect them. But if you have a dog will usually scare them away. They don't like messing around people too much, but they will eat you if they get a chance, especially a grizzly. So,
right.
Yeah. Anyway, but go ahead.
On a different subject, remember I was talking about you mix 4-to-1 copper and tin to get bronze, and 4-to-1 copper and zinc to get brass. You remember when you read about Greek mythology, they're talking about the halls, the floors, and the ceilings were all made of gold, mm-hmm. which sounds very fanciful. And of course, to somebody not used to knowing how they pulled that little trick, you say, people are wasting gold, which should be the foundation of your currency, mm-hmm. and making a wall out of it. That's easy to do. You just sit there and lay it out in a sheet. It's very thin. You can make a wall, ceiling, with reinforcement. You can't tell if you're walking on, a piece of metal that's almost as thin as a dollar bill, as long as it's got plenty of wood reinforcement or stone reinforcement under it. But it's bronze doesn't look like gold, nowhere near. But if you make your bronze and run it through zinc oxide, liquefied zinc, it turns it to a gold color. So all you got to do is melt down enough liquid zinc to pour over your sheet metal that you're going to do, which is not a whole lot. And just run it over that, wipe it over that with whatever you got, whatever you can move a molten metal around with, scrape it over your bronze, and it turns a beautiful gold color. And that's what they saw when they went down to Crete or Santorini. Of course, that's where the center of Atlantis was supposed to be. And they did actually have hot running water because of the volcano. They had hot springs like we were talking about a couple hours ago.
Yeah.
And they piped that hot water into the homes and actually had
hot running water. I heard about that.
Running water in the home.
Yep. And then it's like they lost those skills, and then now all of a sudden, back in the 1800s, they didn't have it. It's weird.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
The Romans come up with a whole bunch of stuff, but so much of that technology got lost, and for almost 1,000 years, progress stopped after the fall of the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
To drive human technology, you've got to have somebody come in with an empire and advance the technology. Because if you're sitting there, you just got a bunch of scattered villages. Even when you have a child that's mentally gifted and can come up with something, they don't have anybody to talk to. They may not even learn how to write, even though they're extremely intelligent. Nobody teaches them how to write. They can't communicate with the next village. So their intelligence is wasted. Where if they're in an empire and the powers that be realize this kid is smart, next thing you know, they've educated him to the nth degree, and he's a mover and shaker with technology in that empire. Where if he was in a village of 800 people, with the nearest village maybe 3 days walking distance away. What's he going to ever do with that intelligence? Nothing.
Right. Well, you know what? I'm getting tired. So, we should probably cut this one off, and then we can always do it again when we have the paranormal roundtable. We'll get into a lot of stuff about.
Keep me informed.
Yes.
And if you ever want to do it on a smaller scale, 2 or 3 of us, if you ever want to get together with just me and Dan and a couple other people, me, you, and Dan would be a party.
Yeah. Well, Russ would be there too. Normally he is here, but he's just tired today. So.
Yeah. So that would just be fun. Maybe put you and Russ where you got chairs and the camera can pick up both of you.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he will. He'll be sitting right here next to me. He always does. We just
one of you can hold it. One of you can hold the dog, the other one can hold the cat.
No, they could run around without us. Crazy animals.
Well, let me let you go to bed.
Yeah, I had so much fun. It was so much fun, and I hope that I'll try to get sometime in August. So that's why I said we'll have like a group messenger conversation, and I'll organize that here pretty quick, and I'll talk to Dan and see what days, what his schedule is, because usually if his schedule is good, I'll just tell him when to be there. He'll be there. So, but I have to make sure it's okay with everybody else too. So, yeah.
Well, on Facebook, they have the thing where you could do that whole room, and you can invite people who are your friends into that room, and you can sit down and have a conversation. Right. You can make phone calls through Facebook. That's free.
Yep, that's how we do it all the time.
Yeah, and there you go.
Yep.
All right. I really appreciate you coming here at the last minute. Thank you. You kind of bailed me out. People are going to be bored of me being by myself. Okay. I appreciate Dan Norwolf. He's the one that got us together.
Yeah, and he's a good guy. He's one of my best friends. Yeah.
He's a fantastic guy. My opinion is you and I are both blessed to have Dan Norville in our lives.
Yeah. Well, I always thought so. I mean, I've known him for a long. He was the first guest we ever had on our first radio show.
Really?
Him and his team. Yep. And ever since that day, we've been close. So,
he's a cool guy. All right, let me let you go. You go get your rest.
I had a great time.
It's been fun, and we will be talking, and we will see each other again.
Okay, buddy. Take care.
But good night to you.
Good night.
All right, we are by ourselves, and we are well into overtime, so we are going to call it quits for tonight. So next week, I don't know who my guest is going to be. Told you earlier about who my guest was. I can't read my sheet now. Next week, going to September. I can't read it. Anyway, I have guests in 2 weeks. Next week, I hope to find somebody. Maybe Dan stop by, or maybe I can have somebody else say they want to be a guest. So if you're hearing this and you want to be a guest on my show next week, call them down. Anyway, the people who are watching this in the podcast don't know what I'm talking about. When's my guest next week? This was recorded 3 years ago. Well, this is time travel. Hi, I'm the past. How's the future? Who's the president? What were the lottery numbers on this date? The one that's going to be drawn tomorrow. Got the numbers? I can go buy me a ticket real quick. Anyway, give me a call. Anyway, have a good night. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on down the road at the next paranormal journey. Good night, everybody. Good night.
Thanks for watching our show. Be sure to tune in to next week as once again we journey way down south into Bayou Country for another heaping portion of Southern Fried Paranormal with Lynn Dorman and Bones. Make sure to like, share, and follow. Y'all come back now. You hear?
Good night.